Into Wednesday's edition of the Jordy Culotta Show, presented by Go Chevrolet, GEAUX, Chevrolet.com. Shout out to Lee Carney, Nick Richard, and the crew down in Laplace, Louisiana. Over here in Baton Rouge, remember, Go Express Auto Sales. Newest addition to the used car lot over on Florida Boulevard. Newest addition to the Go Chevrolet family. All of it online, social media, pick up great specials, new car, used car. Right here in Baton Rouge, Go Express Auto Sales. Driving you every day. We're going to take your food questions. We need food questions. Chef Jean Paul Bourgeois is going to be here at 7:30 this morning. If you have a question for the chef, remember, jump inside of the bunker. We will get them asked and answered 30 minutes from now, as the chef will stop by 1 hour earlier than his regular time here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Also, coming up this morning, we're going to talk to Cole Cubelic at about 8:10 this morning. About 10 minutes after 8, Cole's going to stop by, and we'll start to preview some of the SEC football weekends coming up, including LSU and their spring game coming up on Saturday. We'll point out some of the things we're looking for coming up on Saturday inside Tiger Stadium. So should be a pretty cool weekend down in South Louisiana, with South Carolina in town for a 3-game set that's scheduled to start on Thursday. We talked to Dr. Steve Caparato yesterday. Says that the weather is not really cooperating down here in Baton Rouge over the next couple of days. It was storming yesterday. It looks like it's going to storm again this morning. Pink skies when you woke up here in Baton Rouge. He was.
Baseball canceled, track practice canceled.
He was dead on yesterday. Good evening at my house. Yes, football practice canceled on a big week for the Bruins.
You do have a big week.
Huge week.
Are you going to make up that practice?
If we can on Thursday.
So you have no indoor leads. Like, you can't get into no traction, no nothing.
I've got a warehouse, a construction warehouse.
Concrete?
That it's on concrete. It would be a walkthrough. It could be a
little.
Yes, right. It could be a little psychopathic if you're a parent and showed up.
Yes, are going to be like, what are we doing?
Yes.
Imagine not knowing Jordy and dropping your son off in his first practice.
And the address is a little shady. Yeah. The address is in a part of town that you're not really cool with. You don't want to drive through thunderstorms across town and drop your kid off in a warehouse for an hour walkthrough on a flag football game that could or could not happen.
For 10-year-olds.
On this week, yes.
By the way.
That's right. There's a lot of pride.
You don't want to win or not.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, that was my message.
I'm giving my time.
That has been my message from the start of this thing, but sometimes it just doesn't go over like you think it will. Coming up at 8:30 this morning, nobody at 8:30, as the chef is going to be here at 7:30. We're going to talk to Ryen Russillo at 9 a.m. this morning, out west, helping us out with that West Coast schedule. Going to be 7 o'clock Pacific Coast time, and he'll stop by 9 a.m. He's got a huge crush on Zion.
Oh, how can he not?
I mean, we're going to talk to him about his crush on Zion. He loves the NBA. He loves where Zion and the Pelicans are. We'll talk to him about everything down here with the Pelicans. Also, some college football storylines that you can kick back and forth with Russillo. NFL draft coming up. We'll talk to him about all that coming up at 9 a.m. this morning here on the Jordy Culotta Show.
I'd imagine he's an early riser anyway.
Yeah. Man, but, I mean, that West Coast clock, man, I mean, it's once you get used to it, I mean, there's no,
That guy's living the dream.
He is living it. Writing television series.
I know.
He's a writer. Looking forward to our conversation with Cole coming up at 8 o'clock this morning, bouncing around the SEC and getting some storylines from him, some of the SEC contenders going into the season, also what he's looking for in the NFL draft as far as some of the competitions, and quarterback Jamar Chase, where does he see him fitting in? Justin Fields going to go through a second pro day here today in Columbus. Not sure what he's hoping to accomplish here on the second one that he may not have shown on the first one. You could oversell here in the pre-draft process. I mean, once they've seen enough and your name's hovering around the top 5, it might be the smart thing to do to just chill out for a little bit.
He's certainly not going to run again after what he posted under sub 4.4. I don't know why you'd line up and do that again. And everything that came out the first one seemed to be pretty positive. But so I'm not sure what anybody's doing with having second pro days. I know for sure Jamar's not going to do that. No. You saw what I did. Y'all come get me. I'm good. But I guess if you're one of these quarterbacks and you're trying to finagle your way into the top 5 or what have you, then put as much tape out there as you want, I guess. I mean, it's a controlled environment where you feel probably very safe.
Yeah. It is a process that you could overthink. right?
They're doing it already.
I think that Justin Fields is probably overthinking this process a little bit. There's a lot of movement within the top four, as we saw San Francisco trade up with Miami, and a lot of feeling is that San Francisco is making that move, obviously for a quarterback. And whether it's Justin Fields, whether it's Mac Jones, whether it's Trey Lance, whether it's one of these guys inside of the top five or top three is yet to be, really kind of said or nobody really knows where San Francisco is, but Fields is an option. And I just don't know what you want to, why you would want to do this today. I mean, if you're in the discussion of the top five, then bow out, man. Like, you're not going to be number one. He's not going to be the number one overall pick.
It seems like two's set.
I think Urban Meyer, I think two is set with Zach, BYU. Zach Wilson. And then after that, it's going to be a quarterback shuffle. So Justin Fields is going to work out again today for the pro scouts up in Columbus.
And that's what it has to be. It has to be a certain someone is coming down. Like, I can schedule a pro day, and then these people can make it then. So you're trying to get yourself in front of, I guess, as many decision makers as possible. Or,
this year without the combine, there may be teams that are requesting to see more. If San Francisco picks up the phone at 3 and says, hey, we want to see him do X, Y, and Z. Well, then if you're Justin Fields' representation, you call up Justin Fields and say, they need another day. You need to pack up and you need to get ready. We're going to do this again because the team with the 3rd overall pick is requesting you to do this. And, if that's the case, then it makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah, you want to go live in San Francisco? Or you want to go to Detroit?
Exactly. Or Atlanta.
Right.
Like his hometown is sitting there with the possibility at 6 in taking him. I look right now, Mel Kiper's mock draft has him going 10th overall to New England, which that would be kind of crazy with the relationship that Justin Fields and Cam Newton kind of share growing up. They're both from the same area in Atlanta, similar style and play. So that would be an interesting selection with Cam being the guy there for another season at New England. Remember, daily here on the Jordy Culotta Show, we are brought to you by Relief Health. Over at Relief Health, a change in the way that healthcare is delivered to you in 2021, whether it's in-home or on-site in your office. Relief is changing how healthcare is delivered. No more doctor's offices, no more waiting rooms, healthcare in the comfort of your own home. The process is easy. Download the app today, Relief Health, from the Apple or Google app stores. Get connected to a local doctor in your community, or just order a test directly without talking to a doctor. Your COVID tests are live right now with more tests coming soon. They have the vaccine. They're administering the Moderna vaccine. Remember, Relief will come on site for any employer and administer to their employees over at Relief Health. Ed Ogeron was speaking yesterday to the media on his typical media days and was speaking about this weekend's upcoming spring football game. And we talked a little bit about this yesterday on the Jordy Culotta Show. Remember, everything's podcast, and you can go check it out. Compliments of R&B Builders. But I don't know how much you will see on Saturday as far as the scheme and the program wants to show. Remember, this is going to be a televised SEC network event for just about every school in the conference. So, a lot of schools are going to be, for the lack of a better word, hiding what they're going to look like in the fall, especially a team like LSU.
Do they all have their games on the same weekend? Everyone's spring games?
Not on the same weekend, but around the same time.
Okay.
And it's all time slated due to the SEC network because of the programming that they can use it for throughout the spring and really throughout the rest of the summer. Just put these things on repeat and let them play. But, you're not going to see LSU show you their complete identity in a spring game where you feature a new offensive coordinator and pretty much a new defensive staff. So I don't know how much you're going to see as far as what LSU is going to look like come fall, but some of the things that are going to be interesting to watch is some of the competition that's happening. And Ogeron yesterday in a couple of stops was talking about some specific positions, including offensive line, and it seems like Anthony Bradford, the light has finally gone on for Bradford, as he was a pretty highly regarded guy coming into the recruiting class a couple of years back. He's worked out at just about every position on the offensive line, and right now it seems like he's in a position battle with Chase and Hines. And Hines is coming back, and a guy who's played some pretty solid football for LSU, but at times he's been down and inconsistent. So I think one of the competition, one of the battles to watch on Saturday is going to be the offensive line battle at the right guard spot between Chase and Hines and Anthony Bradford, because if nothing else, LSU could use the depth in development at that position, just because of how light they are going there. I mean, right now LSU's one of their strong suits and one of the faces of this team going into the season is the experience that they have along the front of the offensive line, whether it's Liam Shanahan or whether it's Ed Ingram, whether it is Austin Deculus. I mean, guys that have played a lot of football for LSU, but then you look at that left tackle spot and Dare Rosenthal, who comes back after another year where, he was in and out of the program dealing with some off-the-field stuff. And then at that right guard spot where Chase and Hines has played some quality snaps for you, but he hasn't been able to solidify the spot. And, guys like Cardell Thomas and guys like Anthony Bradford have been, curiously asked where they are in the competition. And it's good to hear Ogeron point out Bradford, who, it seems like it's his time. I mean, it's about the time that you expect an offensive lineman on campus to make an impact. And Bradford's been here 3 years, or going into his third year, and he's been through the weight program, he's been through the off season, he's been through a couple of years of seeing SEC football from the sideline, and now you anticipate that it's his time. I mean, it's now his time to step in and play. So I think that's one position battle to watch on Saturday to see how it plays out. And the world of Cardell Thomas. I mean, the prospect Cardell Thomas. I mean, so many people have been kind of enamored by Thomas and his recruitment and where he comes from. He's from Baton Rouge. He was so highly regarded, and he's just yet to find the field. I mean, he's not been able to get on the field and make any type of impact as far as playing time and as far as just being out there and being healthy. So you would anticipate that things would start to shake out for Thomas and him figure out where he fits in the program. Is he going to be able to play this season? Is he going to be a viable option for James Craig and the offensive staff, or is he going to be another year of him being left behind? I saw some reports on where he was working out at the fullback in their goal line and their power position. Like, I mean, okay, I get it. Like, you want to be big and you want to be fast and strong around the goal line, but if that's where he's fitting in spring, that's that kind of shows you where he is in the competitive balance of the offensive line race. And
is that the point of the spring games? Because I don't fully understand. Like, is it to showcase to us what everybody can do, but not show us too much? Is it to get the players comfortable and the coaches comfortable?
Yeah, the point of a spring game is for the fans.
Okay.
I mean, the point of a spring game where you open up the stadium and you bring fans in, and there's all types of ancillary parts around the game where you're painting kids' face and they've got live music, things that they've done in the past. I don't think that they can do that this year with just the social distancing protocol. But
what benefit do the players get out of it?
Competition.
Okay.
And the coaches get to do a mock of what a game is like, especially if it's a new coaching staff. You get to call, you call down plays from the booth, and it's very much people that, all right, let's not shit the bed whenever the season starts. Like, it's a good run through to like, all right, this is how our organization process is going to go. Get everybody in the booth, call plays down to the field, and you get to get organized around, and it simulates a game day.
Yeah. I mean, from that standpoint,
they don't go full out, right? Because they don't want anybody to get injured.
Well, I mean, it's
tackle.
I mean, it's tackle. I mean, it's and in tackle football, if you go half speed, that's usually when you do get hurt.
Yeah.
So I mean, it'll be full speed, it'll be full contact. I mean, there won't be any contact on the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
they'll be off limits. But, I mean, for the most part, it'll be ones-on-ones. It'll be high competition. I mean, I think there's going to be some key players. Ali Gay was a guy that Ogeron referenced on Tuesday as someone who's probably not going to be there. I mean, you know what you've got in certain players. I don't know how much Stingley will play.
Yeah.
I don't know how much Keishawn Butte will play.
That's
I don't know.
what I was wondering.
I don't know how much those types of players that you know what you got in those guys. You don't have to get them out there and let them compete. They're the starters. They've got their position battle nailed down. Get some guys that need repetition, guys that haven't played a lot of football. Give them an opportunity to get out there so you can evaluate from a coaching standpoint. It's a great opportunity to evaluate your roster.
Yeah.
I mean, you're putting them out there and you're coaching this thing up as it's competition battles. You're watching to see who can take an advantage, who can go out there and close up spring with a good workout. You're getting in front of fans for the first time in a long time. So I think there's going to be some excitement, some buzz, some juice for the players as far as being prepared and being ready to play. I think there'll be some a lot of motivation, a lot of momentum behind LSU, and just an opportunity to shake things out going into fall. I think one of the storylines to watch on Saturday is that they've yet to really have their full complement of running backs in. Ty Davis Price, John Emery, Kevontre Bradford, the guys that are in spring now. I mean, you've rarely had that collection together all at one time on the field because they've been unhealthy. I mean, John Emery's been in a gold jersey since the start of spring. Ty Davis Price has been there. Bradford's been in and out. You got a couple of guys going in. I mean, think back to the start of spring practice where they were talking about true freshman Derek Davis getting a couple of reps at running back because they just didn't have the bodies. They didn't have the guys to go through the drills. So I mean, that is one of the points of spring. That's a miss for Kevin Falk and his group. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. There's no control you have over it. But you want to take these 15 practices and you want to squeeze as many reps as possible as you can out on the field because it gives you a chance to evaluate as a coach and it gives these guys an opportunity to get these reps. I mean, the reps that John Emery has missed, the reps that Kevontre Bradford has missed throughout this spring camp, you can never get those back. And for guys that haven't played a lot of football, for guys that don't have their position nailed down like Stingley or Butte or, guys like that are coming in and really, I mean, it's not about winning their position. It's just about refining their skill at this point. But every case is different. Every case is different almost to a singular standpoint. Like Stingley's spring is even different than Butte's spring. They're both high quality. I mean, they're probably the faces of the offense and the defense, and recognized as all SEC caliber players. But what they want to take away from this spring is probably a little bit different, and not just because they play different sides of the ball. Obviously nobody wants to get hurt. I mean, first and foremost, you want to stay healthy as you can while you get these 15 workouts in. But for both these guys, they're both learning new schemes with new coordinators. I'm sure that there is a little bit of new technique that is involved in that. Not so much changing what you do day to day, but there's certain things that a new coach could probably want from a technical standpoint. So, I think there's a lot that coaches are looking for going into the game. And there's a lot from a player standpoint that you can take away from Saturday. From the fan base standpoint, I think you're just going for a pretty day to watch football in Tiger Stadium.
Hopefully a pretty day.
And
hopefully
it's going to be a pretty day.
Hopefully a pretty day. But, just to get out of the house, go watch football in Tiger Stadium and see the colors on the field.
Yeah.
See purple and gold, see the gold helmets, and see LSU working out in Tiger Stadium. But I think if you're going there to learn what LSU is going to look like in 2021, 2022, you're going to be let down. But if you're going there to look at specific position battles and new faces, I can't wait to see Mason Smith
Right.
I mean, I can't wait to see the true freshman defensive tackle and where he fits in, and then come to hear what Orgeron said on Saturday, that Joseph Evans, the offensive line, transplant, has been the most dominant defensive lineman. I mean, if that's the case, if Joseph Evans is the most dominant guy that they have on the defensive front, think about how scary good they're going to be this year. I mean, I'm expecting Jaquelin Roy to have all SEC type season. I think that he is a breakout star. I mean, think about how he was playing the last 3 games of the season. Yeah, he was nearly unblockable.
When he said it himself, like he finally the light clicked on.
Yeah.
Him. Like he even told the coaching staff as much. He's like, all right, I get it now. And after that, it has been 0 to 100, and he has been the dominant guy that you thought you brought in.
Yeah. And think about it, the light goes on like that for a guy like Mason Smith this season. Now you've got back-to-back seasons where you've recruited the top defensive tackle in the state of Louisiana, brought those guys in, and they're producing as freshmen. That's how it's supposed to work. Now whoever the next defensive tackle, who was our guy that we talked to out of Mississippi a couple of weeks back? Walt? Who was our big guy that we talked to? The interview. We knew it was going to be a great interview, and then he was dropping his brother off at the school.
Yeah. That's how bad the interview was. I mean, it was out the gate, and my man fumbled the ball.
And he's the number 1 defensive tackle in the country.
Right.
He might be the best player in the country.
That's why you interview him.
If he looks at, if he sees Jaquelin Roy and Mason Smith in back-to-back seasons making an impact on LSU's defensive line, there's no recruiting pitch that Ed Orgeron or any defensive coordinator or defensive position coach can tell him that's going to sell him any more than that. I mean, and if Joe Evans is your top guy, I'm expecting Neil Farrell, Glenn Logan to have great years, Mason Smith, as much as they're talking about him, to be a highlight.
I've seen some tape of Mason Smith that has maybe leaked out a little bit, and that man is causing some problems.
Bro, practice. I mean, his combination of size, speed, strength, before he's touched a Division I weight program, is scary.
And he's already got like the NFL moves, you would say. Like he understands what he's doing with his hands and how to get to the quarterback. It's not just raw strength. Like he's got he's got a skill set already.
Where'd he come from?
He was from Terrebonne.
Okay.
I mean, like that was the guy that, I mean, he is the quintessential Ed Orgeron recruit. He's from the Bayou Parishes. He plays defensive line. Ed Orgeron's the head football coach at LSU, from the area, loves the state. I mean, there was almost no way that Coach O could miss him. Patrick Kimry inside of the bunker says, I'm a little reluctant to get hyped after last season. Fair. Very fair.
Fair.
I mean, right, very fair. But I think on Saturday gives you a chance to go and at least begin to wash the bad taste out of your mouth from last season. Because to me, the most discouraging part about 2020 was that you were so unorganized that it seemed like nobody knew what and where to be and what to do, especially on the defensive end. And I think, you started to see them corral that towards the end of the year and really start to kind of gain their traction back as far as getting a grip and a handle on the program. I mean, things were so out of whack and so out of balance and so chaotic at the first part of the season. You were kind of wondering, man, how bad is this situation? I mean, how bad, how crazy is it where the play on the field looks like this, where they don't look like they know what they're doing. I mean, hands in the air, everybody's confused. The coach is chunking his headset, cussing everybody on the sideline. I mean, it was just a very chaotic scene for LSU football coming off the highs of what 2019 was. And I think, that's what I'm looking for on Saturday. You're not going to be able to take away, what LSU is going to look like, or really even on the field next season when you watch the 2 hours that they work out on Saturday. But I think you'll be able to find who a couple of leaders are by just kind of watching them naturally go out there and play. The organization of the coaching staff, the messaging from the coaching staff to the players on whether or not that they're taking that in and putting that on the field. You know, I can't wait to see a guy like Jay Ward. I mean, I've heard so much about Jay Ward this offseason about making the transition to safety. Can he quarterback that defense? Because a lot of the mistakes that Jay Ward made last season as the nickelback, that people want to point and say, what the hell's Jay Ward doing? Well, it was really a safety that was misaligning him and not lining him up correctly. And in Durante Jones's defense, that's a huge responsibility. I mean, you know, Durante Jones comes in with as a defensive backs coach in the NFL and a first-time defensive coordinator. He's going to put a lot of stress on the back end of his defense because that's really where he's comfortable. That's what he knows best. So he's got to have guys back there that can line people up and put people in the right position. And Jay Ward seems to be the candidate that's coming out of the last 13 practices as the guy that's ready to take that step. Whether it's Derek Stingley Sr. that says it here on Mondays, or it's Ed Ogeron when he wraps up his spring practices on Tuesday afternoons on some of his media hits throughout the week. He's praising Jay Ward. So I'm anxious to see, can Ward be the guy to line him up? Can Ward be the guy to take that responsibility on and run the back end of LSU's defense? That's what I'm looking for on Saturday. Some of those points. I mean, and obviously all of the new faces, right? Bug Strong, the new linebacker coming in. We mentioned Mason Smith, who's the big defensive tackle that'll be there, and then you'll get a chance to see the quarterbacks, and it'll be, it'll be the best competition at quarterback that you've seen in over a decade at LSU. And I think that, the guys that are responsible for making these decisions on who it's going to be have a specific skill set that they're looking for in Jake Peets, DJ Mangus, Kevin Falk, the offensive stat, Ed Ogeron. And I think all 4 with Nussmeier give you a little bit something different, and you'll see where the coaching staff feels that their skill set fits in to run the offense on Saturday a little bit. I mean, you'll see while you won't be able to tell what LSU is going to be from, an identity standpoint going into the season, you'll see what they think about each quarterback in the way that they call plays on Saturday, because they're going to do it to their strengths, because they want to see, that they're going out there to put points on the board. They want to entertain people. So they're going to call plays that they think, each guy can run at a high level. So it'll be interesting to see what Peets thinks of those 4 guys. Keep hearing about Garrett Nussmeier.
I was about to say, I guarantee you he's the name that comes out after Saturday. We're like, well, Nussmeier
they
might
want
be
to show him
closer
off
than you think.
Yeah.
Well, Andy, because there's not really a real chance that he comes in and starts. So he might be the show pony that you put out there and be like, oh, that'll get people excited.
Right.
But I don't see him making a real difference this year, but everything you hear out of camp is that he's a little bit better than we thought he was.
Brandon Bourgeois says the execution or lack thereof was the worst part of last year for him. Hope to see that cleared up Saturday. Absolutely. Me too.
I was
Don't
gonna
ever
read that, but I thought I'd butcher his name. I didn't even know that.
You think you think that was right?
I mean, yeah, it seems it.
guess.
Bourgeois, right?
Boogaroo.
That was the most discouraging part for me last year. Was just the lack of execution, the lack of organization
and communication.
Yes, and absolutely. Don't ever let anybody tell you that coaching doesn't matter, because I thought last year, the last 2 years at LSU is a great representation of what good coaching can do. And I think Ed Ogeron he's a good coach, and he understands what the responsibility of bringing guys in on both sides. But Joe Brady, the organization that he brought in to the offense 2 years ago, to where they are, to what they looked like last season, gives you an idea of what coaching means to the, just to the overall program, to the
People
to the
say
overall.
coaching doesn't matter.
Well, sometimes it
gets lost in the shuffle.
Sometimes
it'll
get lost in, guys like Phil Jackson. Sometimes people debate, on how much coaching matters when you can just roll the ball out there and coach Shaq and Kobe or Michael Jordan in their prime. But somebody has to do that. You know what I mean? And that's a scale example of an extreme.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? You'll hear that argument time and time in sports.
But yeah, I was going to say, if you wanted to, like a polar opposite of how much coaching matters, look at what Joe Brady did, and then you have the polar opposite of what happened when we brought in Bo Pelini. Like, that was two complete,
Exactly.
like, there was one well-oiled machine that was like, I can't believe this is how good you can look and how streamlined and efficient you can be, versus an absolute, I mean, it was a shit show on defense. There's, like you said, people throwing their hands up, and you can tell that was a problem. Because what are the buzzwords you hear when you hear any press conference? Communication from the back end, da-da-da, everybody's organized. Like, they knew that was the problem. They're trying to address it as early as they can.
Well, and look, what Orgeron said yesterday I thought was very interesting when he was asked, what are they trying to do in spring? And they said on both sides of the ball, they're just trying to put their base in, their base offense and their base defense. And they just want to be able to run that. They want to be able to clearly run that with any questions or without any questions from the players, and if there are any, this is where you get it figured out. Because last year, I mean, the most embarrassing part of last year was the first game of the season where Mike Leach is just slicing LSU up, and the single remedy that you have to make on it is all you got to do is switch into a zone defense, a cover 2, a cover 3. You guard this area. In basketball, it's a zone. You have this area. You have this area. The Bruins, the flag football Bruins, the 10-year-old Bruins can run a cover 2 defense after one practice in the offseason. Last year, college football seasons was suspended and moved back nearly 4 weeks, a month and a half of its start date. And Ed Orgeron got up in front of the press after Mississippi State game and said that they didn't have enough time to put in a zone defense. It was like, what the hell have you been doing for the last month and a half? I mean, that was appalling. As from somebody that was covering the program, just watching the program, how does that happen?
That game.
You know what I mean? Right. I mean,
I had a huge party at my house for that game.
Think about
on
that.
the invitation, I put, "Come watch the Tigers beat my Bulldogs."
Yeah, well, it's not how it turned out.
I mean,
It is not how it turned out.
I mean, that should be, like you said, that should be day one install stuff. Like, do we really have to go over how to run cover 2?
I mean,
like,
do
we can walk through it
do
real
we
quick.
need a practice? You can't change into that in the game. I mean, like, even if you haven't practiced it. I mean, all these guys are experienced football players. They've been running cover 2 since they were 10. I mean, you can't just in the game say, fellas, we're getting embarrassed by Mississippi State. We can't guard them. I mean, it looks like pregame warm-ups, and they couldn't get into it. I mean, it was amazing. And I think, Orgeron said, like by his comments yesterday, that'll never happen again.
That's a good phrase for him. He loves that.
What?
That'll
That'll never happen again. And it's happened. Well, he says it, and some things keep happening.
Yeah.
I'll never not interview a coach again. Well,
Okay.
did that again.
Daily, we're brought to you over here on the Jordy Culotta Show by AdvantaClean. Remember, AdvantaClean can help you out with water, fire, mold. If you need damage or if you have damage of water, fire, and mold and you need it helped or cleaned up around the house, AdvantaClean can help you today. Remember, get in touch with Bradley Lynch over at AdvantaClean, AdvantaClean.com, as they can help you water, fire, mold. If you see it, you smell it, you sense it around the house, get in touch with AdvantaClean. They work directly with the insurance company. They work directly with the contractors, and they'll get that fixed up for you as they can help you today. Let's answer your food questions here as we will link up with the chef just like we do every single Wednesday here on the Jordy Culotta Show, as the chef has made the move. He is out on the Gulf, not on the Gulf Coast, on the East Coast.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, he's moved again. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Very good. Sipping on a coffee.
Nice.
Where are you?
East
Where
Coast.
are you?
East Coast.
Where though?
Carolina?
East Coast. Charleston still for another couple weeks.
How's it been?
It's been great, man. First time coming to Charleston. I've come here a number of times, but always for work. And so now just getting to live here for 3 or 4 weeks is pretty cool. And getting to see the area kind of on our own time and not other people's is nice as well.
Yeah. What's the food culture like there in that part of the country, in that city? Because it feels very Southern when you say it. What's the culture like now being in it? Does it have that Southern flair, especially from the cuisine aspect?
Definitely has a Southern flair. Their cuisine is much of it is categorized as low country cuisine, which is largely based around seafood and fish. Louisiana seafood is some of my favorite in the world, but Charleston shrimp game just hits different. It is just a phenomenal shrimp that comes out of these Charleston areas outside the Atlantic and all the inland areas. I just find they're much different from Louisiana shrimp, but man, that's one of the things that they just nail every time I come here. Soft shell crabs are in season right now, one of my favorite pieces of seafood. And then you have all the kind of southern Atlantic fish that are not but, there's inland speckled trout and redfish and flounders kind of in the marshes like they would in Louisiana. And once you go further out, it's, all your snapper species and wahoo and tuna and amberjacks and so on and so forth. So you got to work a little harder to catch a lot of fish here in Charleston. Any person will tell you that compared to Louisiana, the sportsman's paradise. But really, really cool place. But the low country style food, it does have it has a lot of similarities with Louisiana. It's some rice based dishes, seafood based dishes. They probably don't have, I don't know. I'm not going to say it's not as flavorful as Louisiana food. It's just kind of different. It's just a little more mellowed and subdued than Louisiana's kind of classic jambalayas and gumbos and stews and seafood dishes. The jambalayas I've had here are a far, far cry from the ones that we've grown up in Cajun country.
Mm-hmm. Is it just because of the spices and the preparation? Is that why, when you say different, is that what you mean by different?
Well, I think a lot has to do with Louisiana's historical reference points and Southern food. Charleston, Louisiana's common historical reference points to Southern food, and that's mostly through the spice and slave trades in the early Americas, and so that stuck in both of these areas, both port cities, one through the Gulf of Mexico, one through the Atlantic. Both fed different areas of the South for both of those things in time, both again slave trading and spice trading and so on, and those stuck around. So like you see the food of the early African Americans here in Charleston, just like you do in Louisiana. You see a lot of the same spices. You obviously, like I just mentioned, see the same seafood and fish being brought into the coast, and so you see that being prepared in similar ways. They just in Charleston you have less Spanish, French, and Italian and German influence like Louisiana does, which makes the early African contributions to its foodways hit a little different as in talking about today's kind of foodways. And so Louisiana just has a little bit more countries involved in its culinary history as opposed to Charleston. At least that's my understanding of the history. I could be proven wrong by somebody, a local Charlestonian who knows more about its foodways than I do.
Chef, I assume you're always kind of man in the kitchen, no matter for these big events, even if you want to or not. But when you cook like a breakfast or something like that, including bacon or any food, is that the first one to go? How much extra do you have to prepare? Because people tend to get up and pick as you take it off the fryer. The bacon always seems to disappear first. So how much extra are you allocating?
That's a funny question. I mean, look, if it's four people around, I mean, you're easily cooking the whole pound of bacon, right? I mean, like I don't see another way out of it. If you're cooking for four people, at least a pound of bacon to account for those snacking fingers. And look, I'm guilty for sure. I'll be the first one. Of course, that's the lion's share, the chef's share, is to give them that first little snack of bacon. So
you got to taste.
You got to get it. Yeah, I mean, to quantify that number, I don't know. That's just too hard to do. But I would say just over prepare when it comes to bacon. Always doesn't matter if it's for breakfast or hamburgers. You're gonna want to snatch you a piece before you hit it for the main meal.
Chef, while we're still on breakfast, one of our listeners wants to know, what is your coffee of choice and how do you brew it?
So my coffee of choice, my wife and I's coffee of choice, and this was while we were even in New York, we drink community dark, the classic dark roast, the French roast.
Okay.
That's our so even through Amazon or so on and so forth, we're constantly getting community. Now we love coffee of all sorts, and we've traveled all over the world and drank coffee of all kinds and prepared and brewed in different ways and so on. And so I'm not, much like I'm not a beer snob, I'm not a coffee snob. I can totally appreciate a good pour over and the time it takes to do it and the methodicalness of it. And some people say what do they call, like the art of it. Yeah. Well, so some people like the pour overs and they're tasty and such and so on. We do a community coffee through the percolator, just like old school coffee, like my parents had, like you have in a diner and so on. And I like it because I can have like 4 cups of coffee without thinking about doing a pour over and waiting for another cup and so on.
Do you ever do a French press though?
I do like a French press if I'm by myself and I'm in like an area where, if I'm staying in a hotel or something and I can get hot water from the like hotel downstairs and don't have to drink their coffee. That's the only thing. Like coffee from hotels, and I travel a lot, tend to be like pretty not so great. But I tell you what's a great kind of item is Black Rifle Coffee Company. You might have seen them in different like outdoor stores and so on and so forth. They're a great veteran-owned coffee company. They've really blown up over the last few years, but they make coffee pouches, much like tea pouches. They also make a really delicious instant coffee that you just pour out of a little tube and into hot water.
Wow.
And like I use that for the duck blind and at a lot of times outdoors, because all I have to do is boil water, put that instant coffee in my cup and pour it over, and it's really pretty darn good. The pouches are really good too. They're full. Their ground coffee and their coffee beans are excellent as well. But I would drink that instant coffee or the pouch, like tea pouch coffee, before hotel coffee or gas station coffee.
Wow.
Anything.
Chef, did we stumble on to give you a little content? I saw you cooked a little ribeye that you were talking about last week.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. Did y'all give me that idea?
I think so. We asked your favorite cut of
We're
steak.
telling everybody we did.
We did.
Well, we asked your favorite cut of steak last week, and that's exactly the one that you said. So I was like, I don't know if we put it in his brain, and he's like, I got to have you some of this ribeye.
Yeah. Yeah, the spinalis. Well, that has been lingering in my head since I got it, and it's been in my freezer just like beckoning for me to cook it. And so when we got those soft shell crabs a couple of days ago, I just thought it would make a great little surf and turf component. As I knew I had these delicious fresh soft shell crabs, and why not put a big like fatty piece of rib cap grilled right over some hot coals on top of it. I'm telling you guys, that is just a phenomenal. I'm actually going to get some more of that rib cap, and I'm going to experiment a little bit of it, and I'm going to cure it like bacon. So I'm going to put probably a 4-day salt, brown sugar, maybe a little maple, black pepper cure on it. And then I'm going to rinse that off, dry it off, and then I'm going to cold smoke it for 3 or 4 hours. And then I'm going to cook it like bacon because one thing I noticed, I added a little hickory chips to my coal bed when I was grilling it. And it's such a fatty piece, and it has great surface area. And as you can tell, it somewhat looks like a slab of bacon that it picks up smoke so well. And as I was slicing into it, and you saw the slice on the video, it really had this kind of this identity that bacon had from that hickory smoke. And I just started thinking to myself, how cool would it be to cure it like bacon, cold smoke it like bacon, and then fry that up with some biscuits or scrambled eggs in the morning with some like bacon. I don't know even what you would call that. You would call that
delicious.
cured rib cap in the way of bacon. I don't know. We'll have to come up with a unique name. Maybe it's the Culotta bacon or something like that.
We'll take it.
I love it.
We'll take it. We got a question for the chef from Be Rich. Chef, when you cook lamb chops, do you cook the whole rack first and then slice it, or slice it first?
So my favorite way to cook lamb chops is slice it first and then cook it. And there's a couple reasons why. When I worked at this Roman Italian restaurant called Maialino in New York, I got to know a dish called scotadita, which means burnt fingers in Italian. And the reason why they call it burnt fingers is because you cut the chops in single pieces, and then you grill or you kind of pan fry the chops separately with individual chops. And what that does, and you kind of turn them with your fingers, and that's why they call them burnt fingers, because the bones will get hot. But I'm a big fan of getting that more crust and caramelization on the exterior of the meat and having like a more even ratio, if you will, of like medium rare, medium internal flesh to crust. And I think you get that better when you cook individual chops on the grill and get all those nice little caramelized bits. So when you bite into it, you have this kind of lollipop, if you will, of lamb chop. Whew. I know that's kind of an overused kind of phrase right now, but it's in my opinion, and this is the reason why I like that steak cook like that too, right? It just gives me a better, more even ratio of crust to red kind of internal meat.
Yeah, you have more control. Speaking of, when's the last time you burned yourself? Because I caught myself pretty good on a convection oven. It's basically an easy bake oven, and I still managed to skewer my finger on there. So I'm wondering the last time you caught yourself pretty good.
Cut myself or burn myself?
Burn yourself. Caught
both.
Yourself. Yeah.
Both.
Yeah. Cut myself has been a while. But burn myself, I don't know. I mean, I burn myself quite a bit. I mean, not quite a bit, but I would say every time I cook in some way, I burn myself. But It's different, I think, because I don't notice it. And I don't even realize it's really happening, whether it's my fingers, my hands, or if I'm reaching deep into an oven and it gets on my upper forearm.
I'm picturing your arm in flames and you don't notice.
Yeah, I don't do it every time I cook, but I mean, just heat and cooking, that's just a part of it. And I've kind of blocked those. That sensory is kind of blocked out of my mind when it happens, and sometimes I don't even realize it happens. I tell you what, when I was cooking every day in New York as a line cook when I was first there, I mean, you're in and out of ovens hundreds of times in the course of 3 or 4 hours, and you're moving so quick that you don't quite ever, it never really registers to you. And at the end of the night, you just have scars from your wrist all the way to your elbows from the oven. And when you go onto the train, when you start working there, like in kitchens over the course of, weeks, months, years, and you have these scars and fresh open wounds on the train, and people kind of looking at you like, "Good God, dude, find some help," like life's not that bad, bro.
Your food's good, man. I swear, it's good.
The tormented shell.
What's coming up next on Duck Camp Dinners? Any movement up to Nova Scotia? I know there was talk about going up to Canada.
Yeah, we're talking a lot about that right now actively. To be honest with you, we don't believe, which is unfortunate. At this point, we have no indication that Canada will even open this year to tourists, which is really sad considering everything that's going on there, and we leave politics out of it. People love to spend their money. Americans love to spend their money and go duck hunt and waterfowl hunt up there. It doesn't look like that's going to happen this year, which obviously throws a wrench in our plans with doing that for Duck Camp Dinners. We have some other ideas, and one of them is to just head west in Louisiana and really, really dig into the culture of Western, like kind of the Acadian prairies of Louisiana. So everywhere in Lafayette and Gaydon, Cathlin, and all those areas out west where kind of boucheries, where all the famous boucheries and meat markets happen, and really do some duck hunting out there. And as y'all may not know this, but Gaydon, Louisiana used to be one of the best places to waterfowl hunt in the world. A lot has changed since it got that title. A lot of it has to do with environment, flight patterns of birds, and so on, and different species, overhunting, agricultural, like farming of rice, becoming more efficient, leaving less rice on the ground, which in turn is feed for waterfowl. So all these things combined is really kind of not like kind of Gaydon doesn't hold that title anymore. It's from a historical point of view, it's still like an incredible waterfowl hunting destination. So we think there's a lot of even storytelling, history, bird hunting, great characters to and of course food and music that is represented in West Louisiana in those areas, different from where we hunted in southeastern Louisiana.
Jean Paul Bourgeois, our chef, right here in the Jordy Culotta Show. Every Wednesday we check in with the Louisiana native. You can keep up with him all throughout social media. I recommend you just going to JeanPaulBourgeois.com, where you can get his spiceology, you can get recipes, you can keep up with duck camp dinners and everything that the chef has going on. We always appreciate your time and your insight, sir. We look forward to next Wednesday.
Thanks, guys. Have a great morning.
Yes,
See
sir.
ya.
There he is. There's the chef checking in this morning.
Y'all, I can't cook lamb or eat lamb because it smells like Henry.
Oh, yeah, you told us.
Like,
that.
I did.
wow.
I already told y'all that.
What's a bummer? Yeah, did your husband get it at a restaurant? And you were like, oh
and
my
I
God,
told the
where's my
chef,
goat?
I was like, I can't eat this. It smells like my goat.
We
They
just
were
had it
like,
on
"What?"
Easter, and it was delicious.
Fallbacks of owning a goat.
Yeah, there's
You know?
one.
I mean, that I can't eat lamb.
The that conversation with the chef brought to you by Nevadis. Nevadis designs and develops custom web and mobile applications that help businesses solve some of the most challenging pain points related to their staff, customers, and processes. Over at Nevadis, their goal is to make businesses more efficient, save time, and provide a beautiful experience for their customers. Some of their favorite things that they automate include order management, quotes and invoices, payment processing, inventory management, digitizing paperwork, and more. If you need to, get in touch with the pros over there at Nevadis. Randall Knockman and his crew are absolutely the best. Stop in and see him, Nevadis.com.
Randall's just a cool guy.
He is cool. And he is part of the Jordy Culotta Show. We appreciate Nevadis. You see the hat every single day that we rock here on the studio and on the set. So Nevadis.com.
Sticker still on.
Sticker,
Still
flat bill.
You look like a kid. You look like a kid in the mall.
I love
You
it.
do.
I love it.
Mom, can I get this hat?
I love the feeling of it, bro. I love the hat. I never wear hats like this, but this one has
You're wearing that hat.
I wear it every
Bonded to
day,
you.
bro.
I'm
like that
surprised
hat.
you don't wear more hats. But, I mean, elephant in the room. We all know why you should wear more hats.
Say it, Lloyd.
I know, Lloyd. Why?
Bold.
When we come back here on the Jordy Culotta Show, we'll get you set up for the second hour today, and the second hour is going to be quick. It's going to be moving. It'll be busy as we will be talking. Yes, you are going to a parent-teacher meeting
Parents'
at
guild meeting, yeah.
the
Had to put my
old
mom hat on for
life
the
gets in
second hour.
life gets in the way of the Jordy Culotta Show.
Wait, do you expect any bad news? Is it just a
No,
normal? Oh, I didn't know if you were
no.
getting called in.
No, I'm president of the Parents Guild.
Yeah, bro.
Okay, so even if there
She's
was
bringing the
any-
cookies and
yeah,
stuff, man. Yeah, right. She's got the gavel.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to talk football 8:10 this morning. Cole Cubelic from the SEC Network. Always love our conversations with Cole as he'll stop by here early on. What's he looking for in spring game weekend here for LSU? Some of the offseason stories to watch. NFL draft on the horizon. What's Cole think on some of the SEC guys that are going into the draft? And then at 9 a.m. this morning, looking forward to catching up with our friend Ryen Russillo, who is out west working for The Ringer. He's got a great podcast, formerly of ESPN. I still think that Russillo and Van Pelt had the best
show
the
of
best
all time.
best radio show ever.
Yeah.
Best radio show
Got
ever.
no backing. It was unbelievable.
It was almost like they were trying to outcast them at ES. Like they did not want to get them.
The platform because they knew it would explode.
It would
Get rid of
explode.
them.
It would explode. Maybe we can dive into that with him
Y'all are kindred spirits in a sort.
at 9 a.m. Because of what they have going on. He's over at The Ringer now. He's got a great podcast. He's an NBA junkie. We'll talk to him about Zion. We'll talk to him about the Pelicans. Some NBA draft stuff. As some of the big four for LSU are getting prepared for that. But always look forward to catching up with Ryen Russillo here on the Jordy Culotta Show. We'll be back, get you set up for hour number 2, heading right at you here, presented every day by Go Chevrolet. Are you self-employed? Then you need to learn about Angel Oak's Home Loans Bank Statement program that they're offering, which makes you eligible as a self-employed borrower to purchase or refinance a home without requiring a tax return. If you want to learn more, get in touch with me. Email me, Jordy at JordyCulottashow.com, to learn about the bank statement loan program offered by Angel Oak. Jordy at JordyCulottashow.com to learn more. Gearing up for spring and summer down here in South Louisiana, and you want to keep your lawn maintained during these sunny seasons, get in touch with our friend Blake Abear over at Abear's Lawn Maintenance, where he says, you grow it, I mow it. 225-485-8022. 225-485-8022 is where you can find Hebert's Lawn and Maintenance, the official lawn and maintenance company of the undisclosed location. Go Chevrolet is proud to announce Go Express Auto Sales, the new used car lot located in the capital city of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, at 11522 Florida Boulevard. Go Express Auto Sales is online at goexpressautosales.com, or you can search them on Facebook and social media at Go Express Auto Sales, the newest addition to the family of Go Chevrolet. Remember, Go Chevrolet is located down in Laplace, Louisiana, but now welcoming aboard Go Express, the new used car lot located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana at 11522 Florida Boulevard. Relief Health, the only way to get your health care in 2021. In your home or on site, Relief is changing how health care is delivered to you. No more doctor's offices, no more waiting rooms. Download the app today, Relief Health, from the Apple or Google app stores. You can get connected to a local doctor in your community or just order a test directly without talking to a doctor. Their COVID tests are live, and right now they have the Moderna vaccine. Online at reliefhealth.com or download the app from your Apple or Google app stores now. Relief Health, changing the way that healthcare is brought to you in 2021. All right, welcome back in here to Wednesday's edition of the Jordy Culotta Show as we get through the first hour there. Quick moving first hour. Appreciate the chef for stopping in as the chef was here for his Wednesday regular. We appreciate the interaction out there, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on Twitter, whether you are on the JordyCulottaShow.com. We always appreciate you being out there. We're testing some new stuff over here at the Jordy Culotta Show. If you saw it yesterday, we did a rundown in the middle of the day, and we are thinking about the future and what it's going to look like here on the Jordy Culotta Show. We wonder if the 7 to 9 a.m. daily hit is the best way to reach our audience, or if it's not just peppering you throughout the day, right? With maybe an hour hit in the morning or a 2-hour hit in the morning some days. and just throughout the day sprinkling in. Yesterday was a rundown. We've got an afternoon idea of coming in, maybe if there's a big story out there or if there's an interview that we may be able to get outside of this window. You know, I mean, I think about Ryen Russillo, who is going to join us at 9 a.m. this morning. He's really doing us a tremendous favor this morning, just like everybody is when they join somebody else's show. You ask somebody, I kind of think of this as I'm inviting somebody into my home. I'm inviting somebody into our conversation. So anybody that accepts that invitation and gives up their time, I'm very grateful for that. I think that, you know, nobody has to say yes on this platform. Nobody has to say, yeah, I mean, I'll join you. I'll come in there and give up my time, which, you know, we just want to make sure that we express we're very grateful for that. We appreciate that because, you know, people have options. People have, you know, options of what to do with their time, and people are busy. And for somebody like Russillo, he's on the West Coast, so he'll be joining us 7 o'clock his time, Pacific Coast time, when he joins us at 9 a.m. Central time here this morning. But if that interview would be more accessible for us at, you know, 2 o'clock this afternoon, we may just come in here and just execute that interview at 2 o'clock this afternoon and just let it live and breathe on all of our platforms and all of our sites and let you just digest it whenever you want it. That's kind of the idea and the thinking behind this. Obviously, we love the platform. We love to bring you conversations and insight to local stories and even national sports stories that we think may move the meter, and more, you know, moreover from the just isolated the sports to some lifestyle stories, to some things that are going on here locally, whether it be politically or whether it be, you know, just things that are happening within our community that create reaction. So we're still kind of learning on where we fit in all of this. You know, I mean, remember, we're trying and we are in a space that is brand new to media. I'd say over the last year, obviously with COVID, this space has exploded with just the ability of podcasting and creating your own YouTube channels and you know, creating your own media for what we're doing every day. So we're continuing to evolve and learn this. And, you know, over the next couple of months, over, you know, May, June, July, is a very slow time in sports. So is it best for us to turn this thing on for 2 hours a day from 7 to 9 a.m. and bring you a quasi media show that, you know, we're creating topics and getting guests? Or do we just kind of punch in at 7 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, look, here's the deal, here's the stories, here's how we feel about it, here's maybe a guest that we have access to, but he or she's not available till this afternoon, so we'll touch back in with you and create it there.
And that's the beauty of having our essentially the UDL, is that we're not stricken to other people being in a studio. We are kind of have at our own free reign here. So we have, if you have the time, we can execute. You know, we don't have to worry about other people occupying this space.
We've got 2 media members within the national landscape scheduled for this second hour, and I think both of them are very transparent in the way with their opinion and kind of their outlook on where they see themselves fitting into the future of this. So we'll ask them, you know, just kind of what their feeling is on the future of media and kind of how they see it playing from their point of view. But, you know, it's interesting. Wes Shin, who is connected to us over here at the Jordy Culotta Show, says that mornings is perfect. He loves it. Maybe start an hour later. But just starting the day with us. And I agree. For my personality, you know, just for me personally, mornings are better for me. I'm a morning person. I'm up every day at 4:30 without an alarm clock. By 5:15, I'm really kind of ready to go as far as, you know, getting ready for the day. I've got no problem being in here at 7 a.m. and giving some sense of what the day may look like, or some of the stories that may have highlighted the sports night, or some things that are going on in and around us. But, you know, it is a platform, and Jacob Ray points it out, and this is some of the conversations, Jacob, that we've been having over the last couple of days, is taking advantage of our flexibility and making content that we enjoy. So we're not necessarily pinned and contracted, contractually obligated to be here from 7 to 9. And in a lot of what we do is building habits for you, for the listener. You expect us to be here every morning. So if we disrupt that, that's going to piss you off, because I know what it does to people when you mess with their
routine,
when you mess with just their day in, day out schedule. Chris Jarrell asked, where's Russillo now? He works for the Ringer. He's also a writer out in Hollywood, and we'll get an update on that. But he's out in California, and was working for Bill Simmons in the Ringer. That just sold for an ungodly amount of money. But he still does his podcast that is created and that is published over at the Ringer. But it's something that we continue to find and evolve. And I think, Jacob, that is the way that we look at it. We want creative, good content. I don't want to come sit in here in June and talk to you about, the LSU football depth chart again. I like to have the news makers on. I don't necessarily like to chase the news. I think that's kind of been my shtick since I've been in media. I like to go after the news makers. I like the guests. Some days that's not going to work out every day. You know what I mean? Some days you want to have big name guests, and that's just not going to. That's just their time doesn't work out. They missed the call. They thought it was 7:30, but it was really 9:30 or whatever it was. Stuff happens. Vishal Vasanji, who's a good friend, says people want to hear your take on breaking news that has happened throughout the day. It's what Twitter is. Get takes on stories as it happens. It's something that we are continuing to discuss and evolve into. And I think the feedback from you is really what we're looking for. Doug Terrio, give us a lunchtime special with a buffalo wing eating contest. Doug Terrio says 7 to 9 is perfect. Any interviews outside of those hours could be released individually or played the next day during the slot of their empty time slots. So there's a lot of options. There's a lot of things to think about. But we just want to give you, we want to be transparent with you. We got no secrets. We're not hiding anything. We don't know if 7 to 9 a.m. is our exact fit, but we do know that we need more content. And we do know that we want to create more content. And yesterday, just going down the rundown was something that we have a vision for, and that we have an idea of doing more of here on the Jordy Culotta Show. So we appreciate the feedback, and we appreciate you being out there. And please continue to provide that feedback, and don't be shy. All of the email addresses have the suffix at jordyculottashow.com. So if you want to get in touch with me, it's Jordy at jordyculottashow.com. You want to get in touch with Lloyd at Jordy Culotta Show, Katie at jordyculottashow.com. You want to email all of us with some ideas, do it. We're open, and we're reading every email, and we appreciate it. So thank you for being out there. Thank you for listening and interacting with us. Coming up here in just minutes, we'll talk to Cole Cubelic from ESPN and from the SEC Network. Daily, we're brought to you by Elevate Treatment and Legacy Center. Elevate Treatment and Legacy Center is dedicated to treating patients who are battling drug and alcohol addiction. Their goal is to help you and guide you in the steps towards recovery and achieve and maintain sobriety. You can begin your treatment online today at elevatetreatment.com, and that's ELEV, the number 8, treatment.com. You can start there this morning at elevatetreatment.com, and you can get in touch with a professional, whether it's for you, for a loved one. Learn about the services, learn about the programs online at elevatetreatment.com. All right, let's link up with, in my opinion, there is nobody that breaks down the game of college football better than our next guest. Really, overall football, if we're just talking from a grand stage. But on the SEC level, you will not find an analyst that breaks it down as thorough as Cole Cubelic does here. He is from the SEC Network.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Doing well. How are you?
Doing good. We are live. Thank you for your time here on this Wednesday morning as we catch up with Cole Cubelic, and there's a lot to get to with Cole. Cole is a huge Pittsburgh Steelers fan. The NFL draft is coming up. Cole, I saw Travis Etienne in the latest mock draft, who is a Louisiana native, Clemson running back in the latest selection for Pittsburgh. Who do you have your eye on there with the Steelers picking late in the first round?
I think if you're gonna, it's funny you said that. We dropped my 6-year-old daughter off at kindergarten this morning, and my 3-year-old walks with me, and we get back in the car, and he wants to hear "Here We Go Steelers" on the way home. So we were just listening to that on the way back from school. So it's a good morning when that happens. But I mean, if you're going,
have you brought him to Heinz? Has he been to Heinz yet?
No, okay. No. I mean, he'll turn 4 in about a month. Okay. So right. Obviously, with COVID last year, the amount of live sporting events we've been able to attend has not been what I would like it to be. But hopefully, we can get some in here in the near future.
Sure.
If you're gonna go running back in the bottom of the first, I mean, for me, it's Najee Harris. Mm-hmm. Just because, I mean, I hate to make this comp because I'm not a huge comp guy, but I mean, I think about what Le'Veon Bell was for that team. And I think you bring in a similar guy, somebody who can handle the load between the tackles, somebody who can obviously help you in pass protection. He's not afraid to step in there and do that. And somebody obviously who can catch the ball out of the backfield. But, I mean, if you're going to go as much quick game as Pittsburgh's going to go with some new offensive linemen, then I want somebody who can help me in protection a little bit. I think Travis Etienne, I'm not going to necessarily say he's a liability in that department, Jordy, but he's not a guy that really welcomes it and not a guy that flourishes with it. Najee's actually really good at it. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think a little more physicality with Najee, maybe even a little bit more well-rounded. He might not give you the explosive capabilities that Etienne does as often, but I think you get a guy a little more well-rounded that's obviously going to benefit your team in multiple ways.
We hear one of Cole Cubelic's latest tweet coming to life in real life right here on the Jordy Culotta Show, where Cole tweeted last night, "I wonder what the 21-year-old me who was lifting weights and running a 300-yard shuttle outside in the middle of the day in July would say if I told him you'll be 5 times more exhausted than just trying to get a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old bathing in PJs asleep in bed." How's parenting going, bro?
I mean, it's great. It's just like sometimes I sit back and I think about, you know, there were days that, you know, we would go lift and then, you know, we'd get out in the Alabama humidity at 12:30 or 1 o'clock and be running, you know, I think we got up to like 6 300-yard shuttles before our test. We'd run like 12 half gassers and like 4 full gassers. And, you know, in the first coaching wave under Bowden, we did fifths, which is, you know, obviously 1 lap all the way around the field. I think we would get up to like 7 or 8 fifths and they were timed. And you have a certain amount of rest. So I sit there and I think about 2-a-days, sit there and think about playing for Rick Trickett, sit there and thinking about, you know, having these marathon practices when Somerville first got there where they would take the periods down. And I'm like, man, I've only got 2 of the 3 by myself last night and just trying to get them to sleep and trying to get them to behave and trying to get them down. I mean, it's just, I'm more exhausted than I was doing any of that stuff. I mean, maybe that's a pathetic admittance of where I am physically in my life right now. But fortunately, a lot of folks on social media kind of felt my pain and said that they were in the same category. So I feel your pain. It can wear you down, but it's a lot of fun.
I feel your pain, and I love the access. I think you showing the access. I was watching you the other day. I think you were either on with Packer in the afternoon on Sirius, or you were on with somebody nationally, and you had your kids kind of like beating on the glass window as you were kind of watching your interview on television that was happening in the living room just between the doors. I think it's great to allow people the access to see what it takes to bring everybody your opinion. You spent some time at your former school, I've seen, with your family over the last couple of weeks. What have you made of Brian Harsin making his impact in his first spring?
I like the way that things are headed. I think a lot of the older guys are beginning to buy in. I mean, we can say they're bought in, but I don't think we really know that until we get 3-4 weeks into the season at least, minimum, because you got to see how guys react in game situations. But you watch the practices. There's a little bit of a different tone there. You know, he's a guy that's a little bit more serious. I think consistency is going to be something that Auburn fans see. And I think defensively, this scheme under Derek Mason may benefit a couple of the guys there a little bit more. Colby Woon's the guy that played some good football inside, but he doesn't really need to be buried down in there. He can be out on the edge a little bit more. I think he'll have a pretty good year. And then you get J.J. Pegues, the 6'2", 300-pound tight end last year, who's now working over on the defensive line. He's a guy that just has loads of potential, and if he can put it together fundamentally, he could be a guy that's a real impact player for this team this fall. So, they still have a ways to go, I think, developing the offensive line. It's a young group. I mean, you think about this group of receivers, I think the leading receiver returning has 6 catches. There's not a receiver that had over 1 receiving touchdown on the team coming back from last year. So this is a young core of receivers. Seth Williams gone, Anthony Schwartz gone, Eli Stove gone. So, it's not a deal where Bo Nix is going to have that bailout guy like he did in Seth Williams all the time. He's going to have to learn how to get through his progressions. He's going to have to learn how to stay in the pocket. I think there's 2 things when you talk about these spring games. We're not going to get a ton of takeaways from a lot of these, Jordy, but if there's 2 things I'm watching in that Auburn spring game, I think number 1, it's Bo Nix, and does he seem to have a bit of a comfort level in the offense? And then number 2, it's his body language. I want to see him be more presidential. I want to see him be more of the CEO of that offense. And I think your body language can say a lot to that. I think guys react to that. I think the fans react to that. I think people can maybe, unfortunately, sometimes fortunately, can develop an opinion about what kind of teammate you are based on how you act. And there's some things that I saw on the sideline, especially when I was covering that team last year, that I wasn't a big fan of. And that's got to change. I talked to Jason Campbell yesterday. I talked to Ben Leard about it. And I just kind of asked those guys, I'm like, listen, man, you played it. Like, can you change that? Or is that just something that's in you? Is that one of those traits? And, they both said, no, I think it's something that and you can work on. But I think both agreed that he's going to have somebody tell him that's happening and that it looks that way. So if those things can come around, they may be able to have some success. But, there's going to be a lot of things that are different, and the adaptability of how guys get on board with it, we'll find out pretty quick, because that schedule at Auburn's got no joke.
Before I get you to Baton Rouge, let me swing around the conference a little bit. How much does George Pickens' injury in Athens at the University of Georgia, the top wide receiver there, how much does that stunt the development of JT Daniels, who is now moving into the full-time quarterback for the Dogs?
I don't think it hurts JT Daniels at all. I think it could, if he does get back, let's say mid-season, which I think is probably best-case scenario, and you get him for a stretch run, maybe heading into the SEC championship game or the playoff, he could benefit you greatly. I think what it does is it's going to force JT Daniels it'll prevent him from locking in on a guy, kind of like what we talked about with Bo Nix. It's easy to have, Odell Beckham, or it's easy to have Jarvis Landry, or it's easy to have Seth Williams. It's easy to have AJ Green and just say, you know what, worst comes to worst, we'll just give it to that dude and see what he can do with it. I think it might help him spread the ball around a little bit more, maybe focus in more on what the best option is for where he needs to deliver the ball. But I think his development will be fine whether he had him or not, because now he knows he's the guy. I think that's the biggest difference with Georgia heading into the season. They're going to know what their offense is. They're going to know what their identity is on offense. I mean, I had that Kentucky game last year. Keep in mind, I flew from that Kentucky game. We had a noon kick, and I got home that night for Halloween. So we're talking about right before we roll into November. That offense was inept. They couldn't move the football. I mean, that was the fastest football game I've ever been a part of. And by the way, I needed it to be to make my flight home from Lexington. But I think Georgia threw like 3 passes in the first half, and Kentucky may have thrown like 2 in the first. I mean, it was ridiculous. And so I think now that you know who you are, and then you can begin to add and subtract from that, that gives you a real big benefit as opposed to juggling quarterbacks, trying to figure out, all right, can we be a team that throws the ball 20, 30 times a game? Are we going to have to just go run game and then work with play action? Can we put RPOs in? I think now you know exactly what you got, who you are, what you can flourish with, and then that allows you just to be more of a team that's balanced and comfortable with what you're trying to do week in, week out. So that will be his biggest advantage heading into this season.
You and I have been behind Max Johnson, it seems like. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you and I have discussed, and both of us like Johnson in this competition. What do you expect shaking out this spring as LSU wraps it up this Saturday with their spring game? Where do you think that quarterback competition sits going into the fall?
That's a good question, and it's kind of tough because I think there are 2 mindsets here, and I'll be interested to see which direction Coach O wants to go. Do you come out of this and say, all right, I need to name a guy because we need to know who our leader is, going through, who's going to handle these summer workouts, which essentially have become practices at all these schools now, Jordy. I mean, these guys are going out 3-4 nights a week, and I mean, they're going through warm-ups, they're going through stretch, they're lining up their individual periods. They got the entire team out there. This is not like where the quarterback, this is not like where Jamarcus Russell used to take 4 or 5 receivers and maybe a couple corners show up and you use some one-on-ones. I mean, this is very organized, the way these guys handle things in the summer. So maybe you want to know who that guy is, and maybe you want him to begin to assert himself in that role moving forward. Flip side of that is you got 3 dudes that are pretty talented. You got 2 guys that have played really well in games at different points in time. Do you want them to continue to battle it out? Do you think that'll force them to push themselves? And then maybe, let's just be honest, let's call it what it is. We know what that position is. We know where college football is right now. You try to keep some guys on the roster. I mean, we saw this, 2 years ago, where, I think 3 guys left before the season began. Now, obviously that worked out because we know what the season turned into, and we all knew who the guy was going to be. But, you might be able to maintain a couple of guys on your roster, and who knows who actually goes out there and wins it. But I'm with you. If I'm putting a wager on it right now, Max Johnson's the starting quarterback at LSU.
2 years ago, you were in Baton Rouge giving the Joe Moore Award to the LSU offensive line, who was on a national championship run at the time. What do you think about that group who has, you mentioned bringing players back. I don't think that there was any unit that experienced more success than getting guys back that they had to have back, like Gekulus, Ingram, and Shanahan, and Rosenthal and crew. What do you make of that front for LSU's offense going into the season?
I think they have a lot of potential. I think they have a chance. Now let's keep in mind, whether it's Max Johnson, whether it's TJ Finley, whether whoever this offensive line is, are they going to flourish? Are they going to be good? A lot of this is just getting on the same page and everybody having that continuity, because some things are still going to be a little bit different. I know that the foundation of the scheme is going to stay the same, but anytime you put somebody new in charge, things are not going to be exactly what they were. So the chemistry needs to grow, needs to develop, needs to be there across the board on offense. But I think that group's got a chance to be pretty good. I mean, Gekulus feels like he's been there for 11 years now. So you got him over at right tackle. Obviously, he should be able to hold that down. Jason Hines did some good things for you. Shanahan's a guy that obviously can handle the center position. I thought he was playing pretty good ball towards the end of last year. And I think Ed Ingram has a legitimate chance to be the best guard in the SEC. He's and especially if Kenyon Green bumps out the tackle at A&M, he definitely has a shot to be the number 1 guard in the SEC. But he's a guy that has put together some good football at times. And then you mentioned you got a few other guys, whether it's Rosenthal, Wire, that have played, that have been on the field. It's just finding the right 5, getting everybody on the same page. But you got some experience. You got some guys that have played in big games. You got some talent, some guys who can move some people. So I expect a pretty big – we were talking about this yesterday with the ESPN FPI. We had a dude on, Seth, that does the FPI deal, Seth Walter, and he kind of like at the end of the interview is like, what are you surprised by? What do you not like? I said, number 1, I think George is way too low. I wouldn't have him at 7. I said, I think Auburn's a little bit high. I said, I don't think there's any way that I would rank Auburn ahead of LSU right now. And I said, I think your projected win total, if you're going to have a scale of what it could be one way and could be the other way, I said, I think LSU deserves a little bit more on the could be in the right direction there. I think their projection was like 7.8, something like that. And I said, I'd have them a little higher than that as far as what I think they could turn into, because I think LSU exceeds a lot of people's expectations this year. So it's obviously a lot has to happen, but when you just go dude for dude, guy for guy across the board that have played and that you've seen be successful, I think a lot of people just focus on a bit of a letdown season last year and say, well, it's just going to be that again. And I don't think they focus in on the talent. I don't think they focus in on the players and the individuals. And if the defense gets right, which I think it will, from a schematic standpoint, from a mental standpoint, then that group's got a chance to be pretty good too.
Switch gear here for the last question, and we appreciate your time here on this Wednesday as we talk to Cole Cubelic of the SEC Network, ESPN, 3-man front, all media. And it's a little bit of a different question, but I respect your opinion in the space. As we said, you can find you everywhere. You're on the SEC Network, where you fastly become the face of college football. ESPN brings you on to analyze the sport. You host 3-Man Front, which is widely considered one of the top shows in the SEC. It was recognized as one of the top shows in the country by Barrett Sports Media. You're all over the place with your time. We're 15 minutes into this interview here in just a local Baton Rouge podcast. What do you see the future of media and the way that sports has kind of been the anchor for live television to live on? But as media evolves and you being such a big player in it, where do you see the future of this? And I know that this is way off base of what we normally talk about, but we were talking about it in the first hour, and I told our listeners that I would just get your opinion on it because of the respect that I have for you in the space. So I don't mean to catch you off guard, but if you could, your opinion on where you see media evolving as you have a front row seat here in 2021.
Yeah, no, it's actually a really interesting question because I'm at a point in my career where I've thought about a lot of these things. I've actually looked at your model. I looked at the Pat McAfee model, and you kind of wonder, all right, how sustainable is that? I mean, you brought up my family earlier in the show. So you've got a 6-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a baby that's about to turn 1 here in a month, and you wonder, could something like that be feasible, be what's best for me personally? And then, I mean, you look at television rights, and I think live sporting rights are going to continue to keep their value and hold their value. But let's just take college football, college basketball, for example. If things were to drastically change in the next 3 to 5 years where athletes now are going to be paid and that's a portion of it, does that change, sports rights? Does that make it different? Either the entities need more to be able to sustain. I mean, we all kind of thought, Jordy, we were going to hit this bubble with collegiate athletics through quarantine and COVID-19. And then all of a sudden we see coaches getting fired and $25 million payouts and,
right,
all this other kind of stuff going on. So it's all of a sudden it's very different. Terrestrial radio is something that I think, depending on where you are, is always going to be viable. I think local always has some value. I worked in a market in North Alabama where, we would run mostly national stuff. And then when we put a local show on, all of a sudden it would do really well just because people, they want someone who they feel like understands their territory, mm-hmm, who understands their turf, who knows their geography, whether they talk about their favorite team all the time or not. I think there's a comfort level with that. And also the ease of just getting in your car and it's on, or knowing what website to go to every day at the office and boom, you turn it on. But let's make no mistake, it's nowhere near what it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. The podcast realm, I think, is one that obviously it gives everything to you when you want it, how you want it. But at the same time, there's so much of it. How popular, how good, how valuable can maybe just one be? I'm good friends with Conrad Thompson. If you're familiar with the wrestling space, yeah, I mean, he's absolutely dominant in the podcast space over there. I think there are things that you have to have. Distribution is something that I think is critical, is key, is very important. As far as watching things on television, I mean, I think we're always going to consume live sports.
Yeah.
Where will we consume it though? I think a perfect example of this is this FCS spring season, which, I mean, I think part of this discussion moving forward could be, I believe that the FCS season should stay in the spring because in my opinion, I believe that the Power Five is only inching further and further away from really the Group of Five and then lower tier schools and then the FCS as well. So if you get to where you're not able to rely on some of the money that they're going to give you at any given point in time, which some people that I've spoken to at FCS schools will tell you that if they played the spring and they averaged 6,000, 8,000, 10,000 people a game, they wouldn't need those paychecks from Florida State and LSU and Auburn and Texas. That $750,000 or $1.2 million, they wouldn't have to have that to sustain their athletic budgets. But this is something that I kind of thought this spring would be a little more successful than it was. I thought more people would get into it. Like, I'm a football nerd, so I watched Southeastern. Like, I've watched Nichols, I've watched McNeese. I called some Stanford games. I watched Jacksonville State. I watched Alabama A&M. Like, I've just been into it. Like, but I'm a weird football guy like that. But it's not easy to find. You have to have ESPN Plus for the most part. You got to go get in there. You got to go find them. You got to know when the games are on. It's not a part of our normal routine. So that would take some time for people to actually adjust to that. But I think everything will be at some point in time a la carte. I mean, we're already seeing this, right? Yeah. I mean, I thought I had, quote, cut the cord by going to YouTube TV. Well, hell, man, I think I pay more now for like things that we watched than exactly. I did when I had DirecTV, and I felt like I was getting ripped off because we got Disney Plus, we got Netflix, we got ESPN Plus, and then we got YouTube TV. and then I'm still going to get a UFC pay-per-view or something every now and then. So it's like, all right, where did I save my money? So, I mean, I think at some point in time, as the cable companies continue to get stripped down, you're probably going to see ESPN just have an app, and you can pay for tier 1, $8.99 a month. You can pay for tier 2, $19.99 a month, or you can pay for all access, $39.99 a month, and you get everything that ESPN offers, plus 2, news, whatever it is, and you get all of that. And then, CBS will push everything to an app, and maybe Viacom, Paramount, whatever it is, they have one app. And if you want to go watch your local CBS news, you either have an over-the-air antenna or you got to go to that app. And if you want to watch if you want to watch New Orleans and the Steelers at noon on CBS on Sunday, you got to go to that app to be able to watch it. I mean, I think that's the only real way of sustainability in the future, because, I mean, the amount of money that cable companies are going to continue to be able to pay to have those channels is going to continue to go down. So it's kind of similar to college football. All those big schools are going to be wanting to keep that money for themselves. I think eventually the networks are going to be like, all right, we can put ads digitally in there. We can control our own ad space. We can control people coming over from other places. Let's just get it all here, have a fee, which, I mean, I think this one thing that we kind of lose in these media rights with these, whether it's Disney Plus, Netflix, whatever. I mean, it's the old gym membership philosophy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, just get them signed up, and then people forget about it. Like,
Yep.
I mean, I used to have Showtime. There's a lot of shows that I like on there, but when the new shows that I don't like aren't on, I'll go in and cancel it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had different apps that I don't do that with, and we'll keep them. And I'm like, why am I paying $9 for this?
Right.
$12 for this? So, I mean, I think a la carte is the way to go. On demand is going to be the way to go. I do think that there will still be a space for terrestrial radio in certain spots. Like, I mean, I think Baton Rouge is going to have that. I think Birmingham, Alabama is going to have that. I think Knoxville, Tennessee is going to have that. I think Austin, Texas is going to have that. But I don't know if that's going to be everywhere. And obviously a lot of your NFL towns, I mean, New Orleans is going to have that as well. 'Cause people are going to they want to hear about their teams. Yeah. So, people want to be able to interact live. They want to be able to call in, tweet in, tell people what they're thinking, and get the reaction of the host. So it's ever changing though, man. You got to, and it's interesting that you asked me, because trust me, I've put a lot of thought into it based on where I am with the way some things are going for me right now. And it's, there's a lot of unknowns at the same time.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure because of the space that you sit in and the access that you have. I've thought a lot about you during these times for me in this transition, just you more on a grander stage. That's 20 minutes with the face and the voice of, in my opinion, the best college football analyst in the game right now. You can give me one name, or you can answer this if you want, because your time has been so great. Devontae Smith, Jamar Chase. Is there a debate on who you would take first?
No, not anymore, because I think Jamar has separated himself physically, and I think there's a little bit of a grouping with. Now, I do think Devonta Smith is ahead of these guys, but I think my biggest question mark in the draft right now is why are more people not talking about Elijah Moore? And Kuiper actually had him, I think, 22nd in his mock yesterday, which he's the first guy that I've seen put in the first round. Yeah. But whether it's Jalen Waddle, whether it's Kadarius Toney, whether it's Elijah Moore, Devonta Smith, I think you can get really close with that group. Jamar physically has sort of put himself ahead of those guys. He's physically a different player. Yeah. Than those guys are, just with his stature and his build. And now, granted, he had 6 months to go down to Exos and work on that. So there's a big advantage there. And I think some teams will see that and probably at least take a step back and notice it. But for me, Jamar Chase is a different guy. So I'm taking him first off the board, and then probably make a decision between those others that we just mentioned.
Bro, your time. I'm so grateful for it. Thank you. That's 20 minutes you gave up here on this Wednesday morning with a lot of knowledge and insight. Thank you very much. Have a great week. We'll talk again soon.
Appreciate it, Jordy. Talk to you, man.
All right, man. Thanks. There's Cole Cubelic checking in. Man, that was good stuff from Cubelic there, as gave you everything from the Jamar Chase to the Devonta Smith debate, all the way up to the media and how he sees it change. He's got a great seat. He's got a great front row seat to what's happening as far as the media landscape changes, and he is one of the commodities within the media game that everybody is trying to kind of get their hands on because of his college football access and just the content that he could provide by having him on your team. Or, like he said, he's thought about the Pat McAfee model because of the leverage and relationships he has, and making that and making that work. Daily, we're brought to you by Edward Jones. Edward Jones, of course, our financial advisor. You can make him yours this morning by emailing him at daniel.newman@edwardjones.com. If you work at the plants, if you work at Shell, if you work at BASF, if you work at Dow, and you have questions about your financial security post-work, get in touch with Daniel Newman this morning. Daniel.Newman@edwardjones.com. He is located out in central Louisiana, right across from Stab's restaurant out in Central. Get in touch with Daniel Newman. He is he's a good friend. He's our financial advisor. If you're into basketball, you probably won't get to the finances discussion for a while because my man loves to talk about hoop, but he can get you set up, and it's very easy. If anything, his word from the start, he told me it was going to be a simple process of rolling over the 401k and having access and communication with him, and it has been that and more. So find out for yourself this morning. Daniel.Newman@edwardjones.com. When we come back, we'll talk to Shea Dixon of Go247. We will focus on this LSU Spring Game, on LSU Spring. What has Shea's takeaways been? What does he anticipate on Saturday? Some of the names that have jumped out to him. And then what's happening in recruiting? I mean, we've heard about this 2022 class for a long time as far as the top-end talent goes, and we've seen some of them start to pop and start to commit and start to make moves. What does Shea anticipate here with the spring and summer period upon us in recruiting? Jordy Culotta Show rolling on. Compliments of Go Chevrolet. Gearing up for spring and summer down here in South Louisiana, and you want to keep your lawn maintained during these sunny seasons, get in touch with our friend Blake Abear over at Abear's Lawn Maintenance, where he says, you grow it, I mow it. 225-485-8022. 225-485-8022 is where you can find Abear's Lawn and Maintenance, the official lawn and maintenance company of the undisclosed location. Are you self-employed? Then you need to learn about Angel Oak's Home Loans Bank Statement program that they're offering, which makes you eligible as a self-employed borrower to purchase or refinance a home without requiring a tax return. If you want to learn more, get in touch with me. Email me, Jordy@JordyCulottaShow.com, to learn about the bank statement loan program offered by Angel Oak. Jordy@JordyCulottaShow.com to learn more. Gearing up for spring and summer down here in South Louisiana, and you want to keep your lawn maintained during these sunny seasons, get in touch with our friend Blake Abear over at Abear's Lawn Maintenance, where he says, you grow it, I mow it. 225-485-8022. 225-485-8022 is where you can find Abear's Lawn and Maintenance, the official lawn and maintenance company of the undisclosed location.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Welcome back here on the Jordy Culotta Show, presented by Go Chevrolet. Look, you can extend that to you. Just got to be careful on that table right there.
Grab it by the base.
Appreciate Cole Cubelic for stopping by here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Great insight from Cubelic, as that was 20 minutes, as I said, when, in my opinion, just the as good as you'll find a college football analyst. Overall, he's with the SEC Network. Very lucky to have him in this region of the country, but you see people really reach out and touch him and want to get his insight even on national stories. SVP and SVP Sports Center routinely talking to him about college football stories. That is Shea Dixon that you see inside of the UDL. My man is a regular here, back with us on this Wednesday morning, as Patrick Kimmery points out. Birds chirping at the UDL. That's right. They're making their way, getting out of here before the rain starts this morning. Door open type morning here at the UDL, as it feels good before the showers come through in South Louisiana. Good stuff from Cole Cubelic. Appreciate Jean Paul Bourgeois stopping by. We will talk to Ryen Russillo in 20 minutes here on the Jordy Culotta show. Shea D, good morning. How are you, my man?
Good morning. How are y'all?
Doing good. Doing good. A lot of people talking about this LSU spring drills, these spring workouts, spring game going to wrap up on Saturday. But moreover, I wanted to talk to you about the dead period that is being lifted. Is this a recruiting story? Is this a big deal? Is this? I saw earlier this week where the recruiting dead period was being lifted. Is that a little earlier than usual?
Well, I mean, now that we've been going a year straight, I guess it's anything would be a nice time to do it. But what it shut down when everything did in mid-March last year, right when all the college basketball tournaments were about to get going or rolling. That's when recruiting shut down, and now, so what, for a year since then, a few more months to June is how long, not just football, any coach has been able to have a face-to-face meeting with a prospective student-athlete, and in that year, every sport has had a signing class, and Orgeron talked a lot about it. Like, look, I haven't even met half these kids that are signing.
That's crazy.
We're on Zoom calls and all the different things that came with the quarantine, but I will say this, before we get too deep into it, because we'll be talking just plenty of football, but my man Lloyd backed out for a second, but his mom is a chef around town, cook around town.
Incredible.
I didn't know that
Lily.
until I was here.
Yes.
And Katie and everyone was talking about it. So I went home, I did some deep research in the Advocate. I'm convinced we need to go over there and make this happen.
Friday morning, she's here. She's in the UDL. She's cooking for the crew. She's coming with a recipe.
Really?
We're going to give her the UDL kitchen, access to the UDL kitchen. She's going to come in and give a presentation of what we're going to cook.
It's like an industrial kitchen in there. It's a 5-star.
Absolutely. It's everything you need. She's come in. She's been on an official visit.
That's right.
She's seen the facilities. She loved everything.
She's like the real deal.
She is the absolute. I mean, you look at Lizzie. You look at Lizzie
here.
And then you think of Lily, and you're like, my goodness, man. So, I mean, Lizzie's got a shot. Lizzie's got a shot. I mean, Lloyd's got a shot.
Yeah. After my research, I said, next time I'm coming on, I'm putting it out there. I'm booking an appointment.
She's got the cachet. I mean, like, you mentioned her name at a social get together, everybody knows who she is. I mean, like, she's got a reputation of being the chef, the cook around town, and now the official chef of the UDL because her son's the producer.
Jordy and Lily would be a nice spin-off show.
Maybe so. Watch your back, Lloyd.
Yeah, right.
What's going on at LSU? What's some of the storylines that you're watching?
Well, I mean, the spring has been wrapping up. Their last padded practice was yesterday. They'll do a bit of a walkthrough on Thursday and then play the spring game on Saturday, which will, by design, be pretty vanilla, but at least we'll get to see some football again, be in Tiger Stadium. Fans are allowed. To be in the lower bowl, so that'll be nice if you're getting out with just you or the kids or whoever. Hopefully the weather's holds off and they can get through, the whole game in the stadium. We've had years where they play a half in the stadium and then they go to the indoor and you don't really see much else. But I'm excited for it. Look, we can talk about all the different things, but I will lead off by saying this because I've got a strong opinion on it. Whether it's very good or very bad or in between, the spring game to me doesn't mean anything. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say that because they didn't have one last year, but the year prior, so prior to the 15-0 season, I went back and read the stat sheet and everyone's articles about the game. Joe Burrow was a pedestrian, like 15 of 28, threw one touchdown, threw one pick. Clyde fumbled his very first carry. The leading receiver targets and catches were D. Anderson and Stephon Sullivan. Wow. And the leaders on defense were Siaki Ika and Michael Divinity. None of that actually played out into the season in any real way. So I wouldn't. You remember the Ronnie Feast spring game days?
I was going to go Richard Murphy.
There you go. I mean, Feast was logging 164 tackles a spring game back-to-back seasons.
Richard Murphy was a spring All-American. I mean, just
absolutely.
He was going yards and 4 touchdowns.
He was the answer. He was exactly what you were looking for every spring.
So maybe we do. Okay, so we'll see little individual guys. Yeah. We're excited about seeing. I don't worry about not just the overall outcome, but any of it, because I don't think it's ever really a clear indicator of what's happening when you play somebody else 6 months later.
Is Mason Smith, I mean, the buzz around Smith through the first 13 practices has been like freakish type ability. Is that what you saw in recruiting, and did you anticipate this?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, that's what Mason Smith is. I mean, you see him as a 285-pounder at, 6'4", 6'5", whatever he is, and he's got no bad weight. I mean, his legs are tree trunks, basically, filled out in the lower body just as he is in the upper body, strong. As Orgeron said, I think his one thing playing defensive tackle is he's 6'5". He's got a pad level becomes big. These things that you didn't worry about as much in high school because you were just going to run right over whoever's in front of you. But even now, the interior lineman said, man, when Mason gets his hands on you, it's tough. But that's what you want out of a 5-star early enrollee freshman. That's why they pushed to bring him in early. That's why they made him the number one kind of priority in the whole class. And he's going to play a lot of football for him, and it's going to happen right away. But I'll also say this, because Orgeron talks up people in the offseason, and I honestly think he's always fair about it. Now, when it comes to defensive linemen, I think a lot of fans say, well, that's his group. He's pumping up certain guys. And Joseph Evans has been that guy this spring. He's talked up the Haynesville product now for a few weeks. He said he had one of the best, is one of the best interior defensive linemen, if not the best one, this spring, and said he wanted him to really show out on Saturday so everybody else could see it. But I've done my research here as a journalist. I've talked to other people that aren't at Orgeron in that building, and players who've gotten to watch, been part of the games, and they say Joe Evans is a real deal.
Wow.
So you've got Logan, who's been banged up, and Farrell, who they said played well last week, but they're the vets. They've been around forever. You're presuming they're your starters, but don't count out Evans, don't count out Mason Smith, don't count out Jaquel and Roy. I think we're going to see more of a rotation there than we've seen in a long time.
Yeah,
and that's a good thing.
Yeah, they've got the depth he's been looking for.
But Evans is a real deal. And this was a kid coming out of Haynesville. Yeah, it's lower ball, but he was a 2-time state shot put champ, out throwing even the guys in the higher classifications. A great kid, played both ways in high school, came here and played both ways to just help him with depth. I think he's found his home at DT. He's going to be really good. I love this DT group, and get down to Jacoby and Guillory and some other guys. They're deep.
What is going on with Guillory? I haven't heard his name this spring. Do you anticipate him having an impact?
I think he'll play, certainly, but he's a true nose tackle in this kind of fit now where they've got, even some athletic guys playing on the interior. I would say that Orgeron said last night, look, he's just going to need to continue to get his weight down. Conditioning is probably a big thing for anyone in the offseason, certainly the bigger guys in the trenches, but the natural talent's there, and he's a national powerlifting champion 3 years in a row in high school. He's an absolute monster in the weight room, so he can throw guys around. It's probably just about technique, conditioning, getting in the right shape, and all of those are conversations that are completely fine to be having when you've been in the program a year, less than a year, one full season and then an off season. I think he'll be fine. And it's a good thing that they've got some other guys ahead of him that can be ready to go, and he doesn't feel like he's rushed.
How close is this quarterback competition right now from your point of view?
I think it's really close. And by design, Cole referenced that, but Orgeron said it last week, this is going to go all the way into the end of fall camp. And from the age of the transfer portal, right, and I'm not thinking here like, I'm screwing these kids over because a couple of these kids would never start, but I just don't want them to leave. It's open. TJ Finley has more starts than Miles Brennan and Max Johnson. So why you can't write him off? I mean, he's played. He's the biggest one of the group. He's got the biggest arm of the group. Each of these guys brings something different. Max being 2-0 at the end, I think Max has really good situational awareness for a kid that was that young, being out there, that he doesn't have the biggest arm in the world. His dad didn't.
Yeah.
He's not the. He's not sitting at the top of the upper echelon in any real category. But when you add it all together, he's maybe your best option. And certainly his mobility is big. And now Brennan's healthy. You don't even have to wonder about how Brennan's playing. So many people just doubted that he would ever play again, or that the injury was so bad that there's no way he would be healthy. And he's been out there all spring. And they love Garrett Nussmeier. I can't wait, because Nussmeier is a product of a quarterback, a quarterback father in Doug Nussmeier, but a coach. And I think one thing that you see with a guy like Garrett Nussmeier, and there's a handful of these kids around the country who grew up in these households. His dad coached at Michigan, Bama, Florida, the Cowboys. He's bounced around to a number of different jobs, and his family has as well. And Garrett told me once, he said, I understand a locker room, and I understand what a team mentality is, because I'm not just around the Bama program or the Cowboys program, but I'm going to like 6 different high school or, schools over my time, and I can quickly adjust to, a new setting. And I think he's hit the
Social
ground.
circumstances.
Yeah, I think he's hit the ground running this spring, and I think for him it's easy to do knowing, look, these other 3 guys have all started. I got nothing to lose. I'm going to go out there and just sling it. And a week doesn't go by where the players and coaches don't say, man, Garrett made a few plays that are, whoa.
Do you get the idea of covering the program that they are right in the locker room, that from a mentality standpoint, that they are all bought in? I think there was a lot of question marks around that last season, and there were some things that you could point to on some things that may have affected the chemistry of the team. Where can you judge from your point of view where they are from that category?
Yeah, I mean, I think off the field stuff to some degree certainly could and did cause rifts here and there and little pockets of the team. But I think that more than anything, Damone Clark's talked about this, of after 15-0, you kind of get a big head.
Sure.
And you say, we're those dudes. And when you lose 20 guys to the NFL draft, it's still not registering to you that you're going to have a massive fall off. I mean, even us, we said, well, yeah, they're losing a bunch of guys, but they'll be able to compete. They'll be good. That's tough sledding. Then you're having everybody opt out. Then your best players are opting out. Then you have other guys opting out mid-season. Then you had a handful of guys get dismissed from the team. It was sort of a no-win situation. I mean, looking back, 5-5 was actually a pretty good finish for them, especially how bad they were on D. I think now the key was you got a bunch of guys back who wanted to be here. The seniors, all those guys are back. So you know that they bring a nice culture and leadership. But you've also got a lot of guys, some who were on that 2019 team, the Stingleys and Wards that have experienced both, but then a lot of freshmen who only saw 5-5 and said, that's not what I came here for. I'm ready to buy into something bigger. And these are, the kids who are now arriving, signed with LSU because they want to be part of a winning program. So I do think that that's a good thing. I think for me, the biggest thing, and I have no clue how these 5 guys are as coaches. We'll see in the fall, but they dropped the average age of the staff. I mean, think about this for Orgeron.
Yeah.
And look, you can say, yeah, he just finished 5-5 and the worst defense ever. He had to make changes. He knew it. There was no other choice. It was self-preservation. Slice it however you want. You get 10 on-field coaches. He replaced 5 of them. He did his DC after 1 year. Insminger, stepped down, but it was at the end of that where it was clear that, okay, they were probably about to start to move in a new direction there. You bring in all these different guys, many of which Orgeron has no ties to before.
Yeah.
Went through the process, fell in love with different guys for different reasons, but the players have talked about a new energy that's just sort of exuded through the building. And look, it's widespread. You've got a new coordinator and a new offensive and defensive coordinator. So every kid on the team is feeling this in some sort of way. Some of these kids have a new coordinator and a new position coach. And they said that just sort of breathes some new life into things. And I think for them, having a spring allows you to recharge, allows you to, work out all your kinks, get a feel for your team. And the veterans on the team have all said, look, we think we're in a much better spot than we were a year ago, because a year ago we thought we were riding high. The reality was we were really overconfident, and now I think they realize what it's going to take.
You get an idea of where Arik Gilbert fits into the future, or if he does?
I mean,
yeah. Right.
Your guess and everyone in the YouTube chat's guess and Lloyd's guess might be better than ours. Lloyd,
He'll be back, Heisman.
Yeah, I mean, he could be, right?
Right.
But I don't know, and it's really on, I think, in Gilbert's corner right now. I think academics play in, the time spent away plays in, the reality that he's been in the transfer portal and committed to Florida and went back, and there's probably some red tape you need to get through there. So, I mean, I'm not saying I don't have it above 50% that he's going to be here playing in the fall. He's not even on the team right now. But I will say that the door certainly isn't shut, given that he still is technically, enrolled, or I guess however you would say it, LSU is his last school. That's where his credits are. And he's got the familiarity there, all that. I mean, so I could see if he can work things out, then, yeah, he'd be back. But if not, then I'm not sure what could happen. Could JUCO? I don't. Yeah. It's tough for me to see him. If he's playing college football next fall, I think it's for LSU. I couldn't see it happening that quickly for somebody else.
Just paying just a slight attention to the 7-on-7 circuit and seeing this F3 organization that Rohan is connected with, and some of the players that are coming out. Ricky Collins, who's a local quarterback here at Woodlawn, seems to be getting a lot of SEC attention and maybe even some local SEC attention from LSU? Where is Collins in on this class of 2022, and who are some of the big movers here in the offseason in this? It's a pretty talented class, right?
Yeah, it is. You mentioned Ricky Collins. I might have been this morning or last night. I was thumbing through Twitter, and he had tweeted a basketball clip of him where he went up for a dunk and just hit his head on the backboard. So this is a kid who can jump out the gym too. I mean, but he's a tall kid. I mean, this is a kid who's 6'5" or whatever he is. But a good quarterback. Look, we talk so much about, and rightfully so, Walker Howard at STM, Arch Manning over at Newman, Eli Holstein as a younger kid at Zachary who's now getting his feet wet, Reese Mooney at Denham Springs. But there's some other kids in this area that are really good, and you obviously mentioned him being at Woodlawn, but Zion Chris over at Madison Prep is a guy who's played really well and has started to be viewed as a guy who's more than a sleeper that can break through that Power 5 ceiling here pretty soon, and we'll see Ricky Collins, who's even a year younger, certainly break through that. LSU's watching. There'll be a lot of SEC schools that I think are watching because when you don't have an eval period, coaches never went to games. All they saw was film. He had good film, he had good stats, and now they're getting to see stuff in 7-on-7, just watching videos, and he's lighting it up every week. So, big stock-up guy. I like both those guys, he and Chris.
And then how about like some of the headliners, like the Shaz Prestons and the Shelton Sampsons and these guys that are high-end players? I know Sampson is a 2023 guy, but Preston is the headliner this year. The Jordy Culotta show has a huge crush on Preston. Just the swag on this kid. I mean, to me, he is the closest comp to Jamar Chase that ever has. I never thought I would see somebody with just the intangibles that Chase had, and then you turn on Preston's film, and it looks a lot similar to Chase at Rummel.
Yeah, I mean, I like Preston a ton. He's been so consistent since he debuted onto the scene. They won that title with St. James right away. He and Savion Jones, a couple other guys were on that team. His brother plays at State, so I mean, they've got it in the bloodlines that these are freakish kids. I know he's going to go to Miami this summer. He'll be at LSU at some point. He's not in any real rush because he knows he can take his time, and these kids haven't visited anywhere. I mean, so for him, it's experience in the process kind of for the first time, face-to-face at his age, about to be a senior. He'll be one to watch. Look, we know that the two top guys there's kind of a top group, at least in the rankings, on the 24/7 composite of three guys, and Walker Howard and Will Campbell are both committed to LSU. The third guy is Jacoby Matthews at Ponchatoula. And from talking to, look, I don't make the rankings, but I have dialogue with the rankings team, and I get a feel for what they're saying, and I'll tell them what local high school coaches here are telling me, or other colleges that are just saying here's a fair evaluation of a kid, off the record type thing, obviously. And some people think Jacoby Matthews should be the number one player in the state.
Really?
I mean,
physically, Coach, he's ready looks it.
He's ready to go.
Sheesh.
I mean, if you look,
it looks like Landon Collins.
Google Jacoby Matthews 247, just click on images, and you'll see. I mean, he looks awesome, and he plays safety now. He can play linebacker at the next level, obviously, because he can just continue to grow and put on weight. But he does it all, and he's got such a good feel for the game defensively. They may be playing him at quarterback some this year, so I don't know what that does for his overall game or development on defense, but then it'll give him even more of an idea of what quarterbacks look for, what the thought process is. I love him. I think he's going to be a guy that really blows up. It's so easy to talk about Walker Howard and Will Campbell because rightfully so. This state never has elite quarterbacks and never has elite left tackles. So put them up there as a 1-2 punch, and you got to get them. LSU did. I think LSU's got to get Jacoby Matthews, especially when you say, well, what are your couple weak spots on defense? Oh, I'd say safety and linebacker probably. All right, here's a 5-star from 30 minutes away who can play both. He's ready to go right now. So I think they'll continue to double down as much as they can on Jacoby Matthews. He's a big-time player. We heard Will Wade here earlier this week talk about his recruiting methods into the transfer portal. How have you seen that on football? Well, in terms of like Orgeron's how he attacks it? Yeah, just like what's the method? I mean, I think for Orgeron, it's best player available is something he seriously looks at, right? That's number one. But they've been good at knowing what the position weaknesses are and going and getting it. Like linebacker was a big time weakness. Certainly then with Baskerville, not being here in the spring and maybe coming back in the summer, and you didn't have great play from the linebackers a year ago. Jabril Cox left. it was key that they went out there and addressed it, and they got it. They got it in Mike Jones Jr. It's not a transfer, but Bug Strong was a late JUCO kid, so they understand needs in that regard. I think Orgeron's strategies, let me back up, is better served by just explaining it this way. You get to sign 25 kids. He would prefer to swing for the fences, sign 20 really good kids, swing for the fences with a handful of 5 stars, out of state, Corey Foreman, all these guys. If they don't come, no sweat off my brow. I've already stacked up on the D-line, all that, and I know that I'm using those spots for transfers. And he's done it each year. We saw him add Joe Burrow to Cole Tracy to all these different guys, Liam Shanahan. And there's only been a couple that you would say were a miss that, haven't played much or didn't do much for him. But most of them are pretty big impact guys. Thaddeus Moss, you could keep going down the list.
Yeah.
That I think just each year after signing day, he wants to still have 2 or 3 spots to play around with. Right now, he still has 1 left. So you could leave the spring, reevaluate your whole team, and say, okay, now what's my biggest need position, and go and get it. I think that's his strategy, is always leave a couple of spots open.
Shea Dixon, 247 Sports, the best. If you want recruiting news, catch up with him on Twitter, at Shea Dixon. Get a subscription over at 247 Sports, and you'll have the latest of what's happening with LSU recruiting and updates on what's happening on the field as well. We'll touch back in with Shea at some point.
Friday.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm coming for food.
That's right. Lily.
Oh, yeah.
Bro, Lily.
Yeah.
Just got to crush it. You got another one.
Our producer stepped out because he knew that the two of us could handle this, but I praised your mom because I actually did my research, and she dominates the Advocate headlines.
She does, and she's strong on IG. She's everywhere, dude.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm telling you,
it
man.
runs in the bloodline.
Yeah, that's right, huh?
We are we're gonna make a little trade there, a little Courtney
That's
for Courtney
right.
trade.
That's right. It's hard to get in touch with her.
We'll see. Friday morning she'll be here.
Yeah,
That's
what I'm
right.
saying.
That's
We're
right.
walking
That's right.
in.
All right, we're going to talk to Ryen Russillo next here on the Jordy Culotta Show. We'll be right back. Don't forget Women Crush Wednesday coming up as well. Abby Alonso in the UDL. She'll tell us what the latest is over at the GritIron Show. Ryen Russillo from the Ringer podcast next. Relief Health, the only way to get your health care in 2021. In your home or on site, Relief is changing how health care is delivered to you. No more doctor's offices, no more waiting rooms. Download the app today, Relief Health, from the Apple or Google app stores. You can get connected to a local doctor in your community or just order a test directly without talking to a doctor. Their COVID tests are live, and right now they have the Moderna vaccine. Online at reliefhealth.com or download the app from your Apple or Google app stores now. Relief Health, changing the way that health care is brought to you in 2021.
Well, folks, it's time to kick it old school. So you can feel cool. Give it to me, baby. Baby. Yeah.
All right, welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show, presented daily by Go Chevrolet. Shout out to Cole Cubelic for stopping by, talking college football. Shea Dixon catching us up on recruiting, college football, and all the news with LSU going into their spring game on Saturday. Chef Jean Paul Bourgeois, a lot of you have been looking forward to our next conversation, as have we, with linking up with Ryen Russillo. Of course, his podcast, presented by The Ringer, a great podcast that you can find wherever you get your podcast from. Check it out. The latest edition is a story with Julius Irving and some great stories from Dr. J of his time in starting out in professional basketball. Ryen Russillo, we appreciate your time here early, I know, out west and waking up with us. Thank you and good morning.
Yeah, what's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Everybody crushing on Zion Williamson down here. People are just losing their mind in what they're seeing, and it seems like it's historic, Ryan, when you just kind of look at the way that he's playing and the impact that he's having on the game. Lonzo's missed the last couple of weeks. He's been running the point guard. It looks like he's very comfortable. Can you tell us what we're watching when we see Zion here in his second year and looking like he's going to be just a superstar in the NBA?
Right now, I think it's the most fun thing to watch in the league. I watch Pelicans games over almost everything else, unless it's actually a good matchup where everybody wants to play, which is unfortunately a little bit more rare this season, but we understand why. It's a challenging season. But, the point Zion thing, I don't even think it's necessarily the last couple of weeks of the Lonzo thing. You started to see Stan let Zion do this in some of those closing moments of tight games in the fourth quarter. Yeah. And as you watched it, you were like, okay, he'd have a power forward trying to defend him 30 feet away from the hoop, and it was over.
Right.
And then they'd bring it double. He'd split that. He's got the quickest jump in the league. He's got the best second jump I maybe have ever seen. We knew how powerful and gifted he was. I knew about the jumping part. I didn't know quite, I wasn't quite as sure about how tight his handle was and in traffic. And he's doing this all without having any kind of outside shot that threatens you. Ben Simmons, who either he or Rudy Gobert are going to win Defensive Player of the Year, Ben Simmons couldn't do anything with him. Couldn't do a thing. Mm-hmm. It was over. I mean, they tried Thibault on him. They tried Mike Scott. They put Danny Green on him full court to try to slow him down, bringing the ball up. But I credit Stan for unlocking this thing and developing it where it's like, you know what, we're actually better with him initiating the offense, which I think maybe complicates the roles for other players. But as far as right now in his development, it's awesome. It's so much fun to watch, and I'm pumped. I'm pumped for that team.
It was about 5 weeks ago on a Sunday afternoon. The Pelicans were playing Boston and went into overtime. Tristan Thompson tried to slide over and I think take a charge on him, and Zion went up in the air and, I mean, just obliterated Thompson, put him into the floor. And you could see even Thompson's teammates were like, bro, I mean, shit, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, and even going to the sideline. And that's where people in New Orleans were like, holy shit. I mean, who is this guy? What has been the most impressive thing you've seen from him?
I think whenever somebody's tried to find a way to stop him in particular, like in the Sacramento game again, this isn't the most impressive play, but there'll be a lot of coaches that'll tell you they want their ball handler to turn the screen down, because if you use the screen, the defense is still dictating where you want to go. Whereas if you're quick enough to turn the screen down, it's chaos for the defense, because then everybody was planning to shift, rotate a certain way, and now they don't know what to do. But it's easier said than done. You can't just turn down every screen and dribble into the original defender. He turned down a screen that was set on Harrison Barnes, and Harrison Barnes took the wrong step once, and it was over. It was like an open field linebacker trying to stay with somebody, a smaller guy with the ball, and a wrong angle. And here it was. He was set up. He knew what Zion was doing. He was crossing half court. He's like, let me try to figure out a way to stay in front of him. And Zion turned the screen down and just went through everyone. I think there was a catch on an alley-oop in that game where there is no chance. And just him catching the basketball was impressive. So I think all the physical stuff, but also I think he's a good teammate. I think Brandon Ingram probably doesn't love some of this development, but it's a lot better letting Zion kind of initiate things, because I think he's a really good passer too. So, I think any team that wins the lottery or any team that gets one of these guys, if their build is something, there's really probably 5 or 6 players in the league that truly change who you are as an organization. I don't know if Zion is going to be one of those guys, because then it comes down to winning. Because if the Pelicans are struggling to even crack into the top 6 or 7, then year 4 people will start to say, "Wait, what happened to this guy? I thought he was awesome." Same thing that's happened to Giannis. Same thing that'll happen to Doncic. I mean, that's just sort of the way it works in the league. Is if your build is this thing, then eventually you have to start winning enough games to match that hype around you. But at the very early stages, you have someone that is so dominant physically that there's nothing. I haven't seen anyone come up with anything. So it's not one play, Jordy. It's just a continuation of teams trying different things, and none of it works.
When you look at building around him, what are the challenges that Griff and the executive team have with the Pelicans in finding the right combination of guys to play alongside him? Because, I mean, when it comes down to it, he may be your best point guard. So what do you do? Do you like the combination of him and Ingram as being kind of the top 2 or the big 2 for the Pelicans?
I hope Ingram likes it.
Yeah.
I don't. The sense I get is he didn't love it all the time, and that's just me watching, because this was kind of his team, and he's putting up big numbers, and I think we'd all agree he's a pretty good player. Everything's worked out, but the development of Zion is just going to take shots away from Ingram. And having Ingram initiate the ball less because Zion is probably not something Ingram wants to do, because I actually like Ingram on drives too. Zion's defense at the beginning of the year was so bad that I didn't even know what he was doing. And I think he's improved that a little bit. I think the work ethic with him, I mean, you hope it's where it needs to be, but so far it hasn't really mattered. So I'm not like anti-Ingram from a basketball standpoint of being his teammate. I don't, the idea that I can figure out, hey, here are the 4 perfect people to play with Zion. Because in the beginning of Zion's story, I thought he'd probably be better as a center, just running and outrunning everybody in a small ball version of this. But then we realized the Pelicans' rim defense was so terrible last year. That's why they did the deal with Adams, even though there's nights where it looks good and other nights where it looks terrible with him. So, I would think spacing the floor and trying to put as many shooters around Zion as possible would be the answer, but it's a little easier said than done, because you'd still need some sort of rim protection the nights that you would need it. So I like Ingram. I like who he's been since he's been with the Pelicans, but I sense there's hey, wait, so now I'm number 2. I'm the number 2 guy on this team, and I think that's a hard thing for young players to accept.
What have you made of the collection of talent in Brooklyn with Steve Nash coaching? Now, you've yet to see them all on the floor together, but does this team feel like when they're all together that they are the favorite?
Just with the Kyrie factor alone, I would never just assume anything and say, yeah, they're going to be awesome. Yeah. They're the best team. I don't know. The media members really like sticking up for Kyrie, and I don't quite get it. Because I would ask a real simple question: is how many times can you just not show up to work and have people be cool with it? And we're on version 3 here with Kyrie. And yes, I know that it's I think great that there's more of an awareness now with everybody, worrying about what other people are doing. But I know any other place I work, if I said, hey, I'm just not feeling it today, there'd be a limit on how many times I could say that. Now, look, I'm not as good at anything I've ever done as Kyrie is at playing basketball. Kyrie is just special. Rod Strickland, who's his godfather, took all sorts of heat for saying he's the best, he's the most talented offensive player ever. And immediately you're just like, okay, what are you saying here? But there's something to what he said and his handle. Kyrie's the best small finisher at the rim I've ever seen in my life. His shot making is like, there's not really many guys that have lived in that neighborhood. But between that and Harden's playoff failures, and I like what the rest of the roster is, all those other guys are propped up just by being out on the floor with those other 3 guys when they're actually out there. Hell, with just 2 of the 3 guys. Yeah. But they're the most talented. I think it's a huge assumption to just go, yeah, they'll be, once the playoffs roll around, all those guys will be fine. All those guys will be fine. I mean, Kyrie, he's just a hard guy to predict. So I wouldn't want my money invested in somebody that at times I think looks at basketball as an inconvenience.
Sticking with point guards around the league, your boy Chris Paul just won't let you die with the take, man. He's got the Suns rolling. How about that?
Well, it was never a bad take. Yeah. It was always accurate. He was always better than most of the point guards, if not better than all of them. And I think in this era of hoops that we have, especially this year with a condensed schedule, there's just a lot of challenges going on this year. So I'm cool with it, but it's also the easiest season I've ever seen to score. 20 points is not hard to get right now. I mean, there are games that are over 6 minutes in, and with no one in the crowd, when you talk to teams, they'll go, yeah, the guys are just kind of check out a little bit earlier because they're just not rallied. There's no energy around it. I mean, we had a Saturday last weekend that may have been the single worst lineup in results of basketball I've seen in years. Wow. So I say all of that by pointing out there's a lot of guys that are scoring, and there's a lot of guys that are taking a disproportionate amount of shots beyond what we've seen before. So when I see Chris Paul at like 16 points a game, but completely changing who a franchise is with wins, not headlines, I mean, look, as soon as he shows up to your team has a chance. And as I said earlier, I don't think that list is beyond 10 players in the league, really. I'm talking like absolutely changing who you are. It might be 5 or 6 guys, and Paul is still one of those guys. And I really hope, he's not going to get MVP votes, although that thing's been all over the place this year because of time missed, but he better make All-NBA, at least one of those 3 teams.
How much did you miss college football, and do you anticipate 100,000 in Tuscaloosa, and will you be one of them when LSU visits in November?
Oh, yeah, I can't wait. I've already made arrangements, although I don't think the Alabama staff is in a huge hurry to give me any favors anymore, which is understandable. There's been a couple times. I don't think I've heard from Texas since, because I was at the Austin game and I was at the end zone and I was with Herman's guy, and I've known Herman for a while, and Texas is the one that gave me the tickets because they got me on the sideline, and it ended up working out that way, and then Herman's guy, after Texas scored, it was a good game, went to high five. Cannell was there, and of course Cannell was rooting against LSU, and then he goes to high five me, and I was like,
right,
get that shit out of here. What are you doing?
Out of your fucking mind, man.
Right. But the thing is, right, and you guys know, I'm not rah-rahing on the side.
Sure.
I don't do any of that stuff at all. I want you guys to win. And so I was like, yeah, man, whatever. And then Cannell made it way worse. And then the guy was like, are you serious? Are you serious? And I haven't heard from Herman since. So I don't know. I don't know if that got back to him. So I'll have to hit up, our people there to get boots on the ground. But I can't wait. And yeah, it'll be 100,000. I mean, look, if LSU played, Hoover tomorrow, there'd be 100,000 at Tiger Stadium. There just are. I try to explain that to people. I don't think it's that different. I was arguing with my dad about it, where I said, as soon as the bars are a go, for real, not Florida and Texas for real. And I don't know what's going on in Louisiana. I've left my town once in a year. California and Los Angeles in particular is as restrictive as any place you can go. Sure. I was like, as soon as it's on, it's going to be a year of Cancun. I mean, it's going to be, people are going to want to catch up for lost time. And he's like, I don't know about that. And I was like, well, you're just older. You disagree and you're wrong.
You just don't know what you're talking about, man.
Yeah.
Tell the locals to lift the regulations, because they are the cavalry is planning on coming in early September for that UCLA game, if they can get this thing off. Because the people down here are they're buying up tickets and wanting to travel out there just to watch LSU. Like you said, they can play this thing wherever. If you tell them that they can go, they're going to be there.
Yeah, I think it's been pretty clear that we can tell. Super Bowl week in Tampa looked like normal Super Bowl week from what I saw. I didn't go. I'd still try to limit everything and be a good citizen, but I can also understand people's I can also understand some people being like, well, wait a minute. We're pretty simple. Well, hey, they're allowed to do it, so I'm going to do it. And there you go. And I don't know. I've looked at all sorts of information, and I always felt like people in the beginning that were experts after 7 days. I was like, why are you so convinced you know exactly what's going on? And I'm still not sure. I still think we'll have time removed from this where we'll go, oh, okay, that was right and that wasn't.
My last one, and I'll get you out of here. I respect your time. You've been with me for 18 minutes, so I appreciate that. I know you're busy. Can you help me? We've gone out on our own with the media thing. We're doing the daily podcast thing. We're on YouTube, Facebook. We got the website. We're up and doing this stuff. At one point, you had the best radio show, I believe, in the country. You have bounced around, done podcasts. You've done different time slots. You're now hosting a podcast. From your point of view, the future of media and just kind of how you see it and how it's been maybe expedited over the last year with COVID and everybody staying inside and creating ideas. Do you have a good grasp on what this thing may look like in the future?
My instinct is just to say no, because I know that I don't know what it's going to look like in 5 or 10 years. I can tell you that, the podcast part of this is really interesting, because at least when I started, which, is a really long time ago now, which, I never thought I was going to be the old guy. I was always the young guy, then all of a sudden I was the old guy, so it just happens. 20 years ago, the hardest thing in the world was to find a way to get on air and have somebody actually say, yes, we're okay with you talking on the air and we're going to pay you for it. That first job was impossible. It was so hard to find. It's one thing to get a job with sports, maybe you get a sales job and there's the promise you can do some stuff or demo tapes or whatever. I did an internship at a TV station that was supposed to be 3 or 4 months, and it lasted 9. And they were like, hey, you've got to stop coming to work. You've completed everything. There's nothing left to do. We all think the world of you, but it's against the law. We can't have you just show up and work, get a girlfriend. And I was, so I was like, I want to make sure I knew everything. They're like, trust us, you know everything you could possibly learn at that position. It's not that hard. So to get that first gig was was impossible. And when you got it, you know, you almost felt like they made a mistake. I remember my father, when I told him I was getting an on-air gig calling baseball games that I'd never been on the air before because I was going to do some sales. He just thought I was lying to him. He's like, "There's no way that's true." And he should have. He was. I would think it was a lie had it not been happening to me.
That's bullshit, son.
Right. And then I got that. I mean, it was a disaster. I didn't even last the full season. I mean, they lied to me of time. I can't even tell you how many times they lied to me about how much money I was going to make. And I was like, every week I'm here, I'm broker. And it's because they lied about what I was going to make. But the point is no one knows that on the resume. It doesn't say resume. Sure. Red Sox minor league announcer was going broke all the time, had to quit, didn't make the full season. The resume says the number 2 man of the Red Sox totally affiliate radio booth. You know, which actually, when I wrote it out, I was like, God, that feels like such a lie, but it actually isn't. Like, it's actually true. And you don't have to put the rest of the stuff, okay? And so then I got to Boston. It was like, hey, you heard that new minor league Red Sox guy that moved back to town? It's pretty good. And that's what I was. Now, to get to your question, the line is shorter to get on the air, but it's wider because you could tomorrow, you go to Best Buy this afternoon, get a couple microphones, program, and you're live and you're good to go. And now your podcast is out there. And what a lot of people are noticing is like, I have to talk how many times a week? I have to segment out stuff. I have to prepare questions. I have to have a guest ready for tomorrow, the next one. And then you just keep doing it. Yeah, for years. So a lot of people that weren't trained in the radio part of it, like you are on air thinking this is going to be fun. And then they go, okay, it was supposed to be more fun and this is way hard. So I think there'll be some correction where there's going to be a lot of people that just go, oh, you know, I mean, when I ask somebody who doesn't know me to come on the podcast, they look at me like I'm this loser because it's like, oh, you have a podcast too? You're like, well, you know, I'd like to think that I was in on it pretty early with the radio show part of it. And, you know, we're doing pretty well over here. So maybe you'd want to come on, you know? So there could also be, because of the rush to podcasting, there may be down the road some pivot back where, you know, I'll hear some people say, oh, I wish podcasts were more live and in the moment. You're like, did you just invent radio again? Like, what are you talking about? Right. Like, we did that. So I think because the industry is so tough, there's something great about taking your own ownership on. And if you have the connections through radio like you did to maybe, you know, keep advertisers around, like you could make a nice career out of it. But I don't think radio is dead by any means. And I actually think there'll be some kind of desire in the future. And I don't know if it'll be radio or some different version of radio. Will be a demand of wanting people to have a live audience again. I do think that that'll happen. But right now, it doesn't feel like it's anytime soon.
Great to catch up with you, man. Thank you for the insight. The podcast is awesome. We'll talk again soon.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, man. See you. Ryen Russillo checking in from California. When we come back, we'll talk to Abby Alonso for Women Crush Wednesday right here on the Jordy Culotta Show.
It is humming outside, brother.
Relief Health, the only way to get your health care in 2021. In your home or on site, Relief is changing how health care is delivered to you. No more doctor's offices, no more waiting rooms. Download the app today, Relief Health, from the Apple or Google app stores. You can get connected to a local doctor in your community or just order a test directly without talking to a doctor. Their COVID tests are live, and right now they have the Moderna vaccine. Online at reliefhealth.com or download the app from your Apple or Google app stores now. Relief Health, changing the way that healthcare is brought to you in 2021. Go Chevrolet is proud to announce Go Express Auto Sales, the new used car lot located in the capital city of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, at 11522 Florida Boulevard. Go Express Auto Sales is online at goexpressautosales.com, or you can search them on Facebook and social media at Go Express Auto Sales, the newest addition to the family of Go Chevrolet. Remember, Go Chevrolet is located down in Laplace, Louisiana, but now welcoming aboard Go Express, the new used car lot located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana at 11522 Florida Boulevard. Go Chevrolet is proud to announce Go Express Auto Sales, the new used car lot located in the capital city of Baton Rouge, Louisiana at 11522 Florida Boulevard. Go Express Auto Sales is online at goexpressautosales.com, or you can search them on Facebook and social media at Go Express auto sales, the newest addition to the family of Go Chevrolet. Remember, Go Chevrolet is located down in Laplace, Louisiana, but now welcoming aboard Go Express, the new used car lot located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana at 11522 Florida Boulevard. Welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show on this hailing Wednesday morning, bro. What the hell is going on outside? As it is, it's coming down in South Louisiana right now. I'm following my Twitter timeline, and see a lot of you out there experiencing this weather that is coming down here in South Louisiana right now. So everybody stay safe out there. Good stuff from Ryen Russillo. Good stuff from Cole Cubelic. Good stuff from Shea Dixon. Jean Paul Bourgeois was phenomenal on your food questions. Appreciate everybody interacting today. It is Women Crush Wednesday.
It is. Here
on the Jordy Culotta Show, which means that we either link up with one or both of our team of the GritIron Show. This week is Abby Alonso back in the UDL.
I'm
Great
back.
to see you, Mama. As y'all stepped out and did some live broadcasting this weekend, which was phenomenal representation for the Jordy Culotta Show, as the GritIron Show does great work. As the new podcast comes out on Mondays and Women Crush Wednesday every Wednesday here on the Jordy Culotta Show. How was that over at Mid-City Beer Gardens?
Oh, it was awesome.
Yes.
Beautiful place. Shout out to them for hosting us. If you haven't been, definitely go. It's really nice for brunch and dinner, whatever. It's really nice over there. But we also got to do an interview. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We definitely tasted some cocktails and some mimosas. We had a good time. But we did an interview with senior LSU women's tennis player Paris Corley.
Nice.
And she pretty much gave us some insight on what it's like to be out of state, and then what it was like to be a senior during COVID, and when she found out what was going to happen. And
so is she coming back?
Yeah. She.
Nice.
Well, this is her. She finishes her senior season this year.
Right. Okay.
And then she wants to play pro.
Nice.
But really good interview, so check that out. That's up now. And then the Carrie Potts interview that we were going to release Monday, we decided to push back because we ended up getting an interview on Sunday. So that will be released on Monday. Really good one. We talked about that last week, so make sure to check that out. And then, of course, I've got our Women Crush Wednesday for today. It's Natalia Durantis, who was the former recruiting coordinator for Texas A&M.
Nice.
And the Washington football team just hired her as their chief of staff, making her the first Latina to hold that position in the NFL, and only the third woman behind Callie Brownson, who is the chief of staff for the Cleveland Browns, and Sarah Hogan, who is the coordinator of head coach operations for the Atlanta Falcons. So we just bumped that number up to 3, making leeway up there in the NFL.
And let me tell you, man, if you are paying attention, there are agents right now, that the females that are moving into the sports agent game, that just paying attention on social media and seeing some of the impacts of these guys that are being represented by some females, whether going into the draft process or through the free agent process, have introduced you to kind of behind the scenes. A lot of the stuff that we've talked to, with Russillo and Cole on, you can just go form your own media podcast, or you see some of these guys on their social media talking about their representation, and it seems like that the agent industry is being infiltrated right now by a female workforce.
Absolutely.
I mean, it seems like there are the majority of the guys that I am seeing going into the draft process or getting into their profession and then realizing, hey, I may need more representation or change representation, are finding their answers with female representation. And I think that has always been an industry that has been widely thought of, much like a locker room.
Yep.
Much like a place where women did not not have an impact, but just didn't even have a presence.
Yeah, it's becoming. You see more and more. And actually, during quarantine, I had this. I watched this series called Ballers with The Rock in it.
Absolutely.
And I was like, man, that looks fun.
What a life.
And I was like, maybe I should be a sports agent.
And somebody like you, bro, who understands the opening conversation of what it would take to create an impact on somebody like that. You know what I mean? Because I think the first impression in that game is all of it.
Well, look at him.
I mean,
they paint that picture pretty clearly.
But I'm not even talking about the physical.
No.
I'm talking about the impact that you make in sitting down across from somebody, because like we talk about with athletes all the time, people tell them how great they are all day. Mm-hmm. The real people that they have conversations with are somebody who brings up everything but sports.
Right.
I mean, that's the I thought, and I'll reference this again, was Cedric Harris Sr. speaking at young CJ's funeral over the weekend in talking about the mentality that they were breeding within this young superstar athlete of really understanding that sports and athletic skill gets you to the table, but what's going to keep you there is your character and what you bring to, the conversation, what you bring to the situation. And it's going to be much more than sports.
Right.
It's going to be much more than athletics. And it's just an interesting piece. And I appreciate what y'all are doing on the GritIron Show and Women Crush Wednesday, and highlighting some of these professions and the impacts that females are having each week. How is school? What is school like right now for a student? Not today, because today is a no-brainer, right? I mean, does anybody would you go to class today? I mean, no, okay. I mean, well, you're a scholarship winner. I mean, in a room of 3 right now, everybody knows what we're doing. We ain't going to class. I mean, I'm just wondering.
Yeah, no, if it's hailing, I'm not walking campus.
Okay.
This is the start of the last 3 weeks of projects, papers, finals.
So the graduation push.
Yeah, it's that hell, just that hell period.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not fun.
All right. Well, good luck with that.
Thanks.
You need any help? That's
right. That's right. If you need help, let us know. We'll find somebody for you. The GritIron Show, of course, the newest are always published on Monday. Women Crush Wednesday every week here with Abby and Whit. Keep up the great work. Thank you. Be safe out there today. Thank you all out there for interacting with us here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Great show today. Appreciate everybody's time. The chef, Jean Paul Bourgeois, Ryen Russillo, Cole Cubelic, Shea Dixon, Abby Alonzo. For Lizzie, I'm Jordy. Katie was here in hour number 1. Y'all have a good, safe Wednesday. Stay safe out there. We're back with you tomorrow morning.